Welcome back, everyone. We're here for the final match in the Overwatch Carbon Series, Week 2. Now, I know that a lot of you were on your edge of your seats for that one, but we do have 3 more weeks in playoffs after this. But right now, we're all focused on the next matchup, and that is going to be Team Liquid versus Immortals, as we just watched Renegade take it against Luminosity. So how are we feeling? Just initial overarching themes coming into Team Liquid versus Immortals.
Well, coming in the Team Liquid versus Immortals, I'm not sure we're going to see either team run Bastion based on how they were playing yesterday. But if they were watching the previous series or going in with interesting scrim results, maybe we'll see it. But this could be a very robotless fight if we take day 2 into consideration.
I would tend to agree, but I think if Liquid starts going down early, it's all's out the window. We got to do something to get a win. They're 0-3 so far in the tournament. They will be 10 total matches for each team. You do not want to go down 0-4. At some point, it's got to be a morale breaker that they can't win a game. They're going to be running again tonight with Shatter, who will be playing for them, but still without Rafa, who is their main shot caller. Grego will be stepping in again. Grego, of course, it's difficult to shot call for a new team when you're only had a couple of days. He was the one shot calling last time they played. He will be doing it again tonight. Maybe they've worked together a little bit, but having those roster changes, very difficult. I could see him run it because they have to do anything they can to not go 0-4.
Yeah, and the difficult thing, I mean, Team Liquid, their backs are up against the wall. They did look stronger with Shatter 2K as far as the damage goes, but there just wasn't there was this X factor that they were missing, and they were unable to actually find victory. And that certainly could have been that they were missing Rafa. And so it's going to be interesting to see. This is the last game that we know of that he's going to be missing, but whether or not he can have that impact. Let's go ahead and take a look at the roster at large as we're coming into this one. As you can see, Grego there on the support. But ZP, when we're looking at this lineup, go through the strengths and weaknesses as far as threats go. Like, what are we expecting out of these guys?
Well, the biggest thing to focus on that's new for Team Liquid is that they now have a projectile DPS threat. Shatter had a very good showing for Team Liquid, even though they lost in their first opening with him. You see that there's room to build on for that there. You look at the rest of the roster overall, Mezar at points has been seen as one of the better tanks in the entire game, certainly one of the most experienced tanks in the game. And then you have players like Dehang. Very excellent support, probably one of the more underrated supports you can find in terms of his consistency, ability to stay alive. And then ID, who does shine when he goes on off-tank roles. So I think the frustrating part about Liquid is that when you look at them on an individual level, there is and has been a lot of talent on this team. It's just they never put it together for any reason. And just more to that point, there's definitely a time where Liquid was playing almost every team close. They just were not walking away with victories at the very end of it.
You say projectile threat when you're talking about Shatter, but mostly he's been playing Genji, and I say because their other projectile threat in Pharah has not necessarily been a great threat, and I have great respect and love for ID, but he simply has been playing at the level of Pharah that you need to play, and that has hurt them so much because they don't have the support around Shatter. I would say, again, all the strategies are off. It's all off the table now. Why not start building your composition around such a dynamic player like Shatter? Give him all the support he needs as the Genji going in, rather than trying strategies you've tried before that have still not gotten you the results you need.
Well, the other thing to point out here, too, that I neglected to bring up is that AZK, of course, has really been having a resurgence. Even though you don't see it in the 0-3 setup here for Team Liquid, he has definitely been performing much better than I think we saw him in the months previous if you go back to events like MLG Vegas. So the 0-3 is a little bit misleading, but unfortunately, due to the standings, Liquid is running out of time to turn it around, and they're going up against a behemoth of a team in Immortals here, where Immortals is also a bit on the hot seat despite being favored in a lot of their matchups.
Yes, and before we go into Immortals, because we definitely have a lot to talk about with them as well, let's take a look at the player to watch here for Team Liquid. And we've actually chosen somewhat of a matchup here, but Mezar is going to be the player to watch for this team. And when we talk a lot about how their damage dealers have been doing, the tank matchup in this one is something you cannot ignore. Mezar versus Nami. And spoiler alert, Nami will be the player to watch. But we'll go into that later. For Immortals. But let's talk about Mezar. How has Mezar been performing in the last couple of weeks?
Last couple of weeks, I've thought he's brought it together a little bit. The very first week, it did seem like he was out on an island, not necessarily trusting the calls where his team was going to be. It seemed like he wanted to play a certain style. The rest of the team wanted to play a different style. That's the gap between their styles has lessened a little bit. Mezzer has the potential to be the best tank in North America. I still firmly believe that. But the team around him has made him a little more cautious in his play. He has to think too much. When you're Ryan, who has to think too much and not second nature, you can struggle a little bit.
Because we have so much tape of Mezar playing very well, whether you look at earlier times in Overwatch or you look at things like Overwatch World Cup, where he had a pretty good showing for Team USA to the point where even South Korea said, hey, Mezar's playing really good for Team USA, and they don't give out that praise lightly. You look at some of the recent struggles, and you have to think that it does come down to the part where Team Liquid has been changing up how they've been calling, who they have on tank with Mezar, and when there's sort of just doubts about how hard you can go in as a tank, it's going to affect your judgment, and you're not going to have the great plays that you might otherwise be able to have.
Well, if there is any moment for Team Liquid to bring it together, to pull it together, it's this game right here, backs up against the wall. Let's take a look at Immortals. Also, their backs somewhat up against the wall, coming into this event as the tournament favorite. And now they're 1-2, and they want to prove that they're still that top-tier team. This is their roster. Talk us through the threats on Immortals here.
So for Immortals, of course, you look at their threats that they have here, and Grim Reality really gets a lot of the credit. But I would say you take a look at Immortals' last series that they had, you have to give a lot to Agilities, where Agilities was, particularly as Roadhog, getting a pick-off almost every fight in the very beginning, and a big reason why Immortals, when they did do well, were doing well. So Agilities has definitely had a bit of a coming out party, and perhaps the new Roadhog changes have aided that. I will note that as a more general level, Immortals might be 1-2 right now, which does apply more pressure on them not to lose tonight. I'm still not really worried about Immortals making it to the top 4 and knowing what we know about them, despite some recently rough games.
I would agree that I don't see a enormous collapse for them, but you're still Immortals. You want to be putting out good tape every time you go out there, and getting reverse swept in one of our first games against Luminosity Gaming couldn't have been great, and then going down 1-2, I think they expected to at the very least be 2-1, probably 3-0, so they're not living up to their own expectations right now. For me, I think Athan is one of the best supports in all of the game. We've seen how different they look without him. Of course, those were extenuating circumstances as well, but they're going to run pretty standard stuff. Generally, they've shown a little thing here and there. What I do like about them lately is on the maps they've struggled on defense, they have tried different things. They've tried to get more aggressive, knowing that their standard defenses on points have not been working. They're running much more aggressive defenses. They're still working out the kinks there, but I like the idea that at least they'll try those things.
Yeah, and when we're talking about inconsistencies around your third damage dealing or flex role, and maybe if ID is one of these question marks in our mind, well, he's really good on these off tanks, doesn't always have the same showings on DPS. Looking at Hyped, we've seen a little bit of inconsistency, but man, his Tracer play has been on point.
His Tracer play has definitely had moments of high points. I'm not sure I'd put him in the same category of some of the other higher tier Tracers of the tournament. So I don't know if I give mixed praise there, because I think he's doing a good job of filling in, but I'm not sure it's quite the same triple threat that other teams might have when you look at a team like Rogue, where they really do have 3 very top tier DPS players in every aspect.
It's funny because we talk about ID and how perhaps ID is better on that flex tank role. Well, in my opinion, you talk about Hyped, I think Hyped is better on that flex tank role rather than on the Tracer in general. It's just a matter of, can you run those compositions comfortably? Where do you feel most comfortable on? And I will give Hyped a little more time as well. He spent so much time on that flex type role that he maybe got a little out of his Tracer game. Tracer, you have to work up to it, get the muscle memory if you want that god tier tracking. So I'll give him a little bit more time, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and that is going to be something that we're watching. But the player we're really going to be watching, if we're looking at Messer on the side of Team Liquid, it is going to be Nami on the side of Immortals. How have we been seeing Nami playing?
It's very simple for me. He played poorly last time they were at. He just simply played poorly. I think if you asked him to a man, maybe he'll tell you a reason why, but I think he would have a hard time disagreeing with us.
Nomi generally has been relatively consistent for Immortals, but his last outing in the last series they were in versus Hammers, it did not look good. He was going, when he was on Winston, he would go in ahead of his team and often die early on before anything was done. And even on Reinhardt, he was getting caught out more frequently than we've seen him. And that really hurt Immortals throughout the course of the night. So, I mean, Nomi historically pretty decent output. I wouldn't necessarily say one of the very top tanks in the game, but has had very good moments. But yesterday, for whatever reason, was just not his night.
Well, it's going to be up to him to step up his game today as Immortals are going to be looking for victory against Team Liquid. And we do have our first map, by the way. It is going to be Eichenwald, selected by Immortals. Anything, any surprise that they picked that one?
No surprise at all. It's one of their better maps over the last month. It's one of Liquid's poorer maps over the last month.
I mean, really, the main thing they need to do here was not pick Hollywood because that's one of Liquid's good maps and one of Immortals' bad maps. So the fact that we're not going to Hollywood for this, no surprise. Kings Row would have been perhaps more neutral ground, but Eichenwald, not a bad pick for them to go to here.
Yeah, I'm honestly, if we go to Game 4, the winner of Game 4, the loser of Game 4, rather, might even have an advantage coming into Game 5 if we even make it that far because of how Immortals has been playing on Kings Row, because it'll either be Kings Row or, Hollywood. But either way, we are about ready to go into game. Any final thoughts coming into this one?
I've always wanted Liquid to do well. They have all the pieces. Can they finally put it together? They're in a tough spot. They have two brand new players. Very difficult to make them mesh. I think overall, Liquid's going to have to pull out. They're all going to have their top tier games. AZK, ID included. They all have to play at their highest level to be able to beat Immortals.
I tend to agree, although note that from what we saw for Immortals in their last matchup, if Immortals still is struggling a little bit, maybe there is an opportunity for Team Liquid to hang on to life. As, of course, we head to this rustic castle in Eichenwald. See what both teams have in store for us.
Well, new patch did bring us a new version of Eichenwald. Both are correct, I've been told. I don't know, I'm sure chat disagrees, but this gate, once it collapses, will not close again, will not reform from its ashes like the Phoenix. It will remain rubble, so the entry a little bit different coming in towards last. Do you see anything interesting on the defense so far from Team Liquid as we begin to set up ZP?
Well, take a look at the Team Liquid defense. It's clear that they don't want to revisit the horrors of Bastion units on this quaint German town. Of course, you take a look around, there are dead Bastion units everywhere, and apparently it killed someone related to Reinhardt. So as far as it goes here, they just don't want to traumatize things here. But this is no surprise, of course, going back to what we saw yesterday. Neither of these teams really seemed too keen on running a whole lot of Bastion. So if we don't see it the entire set, I'm not going to be surprised.
There have been some small reworks, I think. You and I were playing on this map the other day, and I think right below where Grego is right now is a new outhouse right in the corner. Very small, inconsequential, but I could see someone getting caught there.
Well, one of the biggest complaints for the heroes as they're here in Eichenwald is that they had nowhere to use the bathroom. There's actually a bathroom problem here in Eichenwald, but now you have one right on the point, Hex. It is actually a massive quality of life improvement for all of our brave heroes fighting for Overwatch.
Well, this is something we've seen Team Liquid run with Grego filling in for Rafa as they run a Zenyatta and Ana composition. No Lucio here. Shatter will be on a Torb of all things, and Mez and AZK will be on Reinhardt and 76 respectively. Dive comp, well, never mind, two tanks and, well, running 2-2-2 is the easiest way to call the Immortals comp.
Immortals right now, they're pushing back Team Liquid. Team Liquid, they haven't fallen here just yet, but Shatter under pressure here as Torb actually almost falls, but it's the hang, keeping him up. Team Liquid is still at full HP here, so they're almost taunting Immortals, saying, look, go into us right now. Now, Shatter finally does fall under that pressure, not able to stay alive. The Torb probably not doing as much as they would like. Turret is down, but here comes Team Liquid pushing it back. AZK now applying pressure in, finds Hyped. It's very close between the two teams. Not ideal for Team Liquid, the early Torb death, and yet here comes Immortals. This is how Nano Boost in onto Nomi, getting into the corner, treating ID to that hammer, and that might now just open this up.
Well, Shatter is off the Torb, now onto his much more familiar Genji. He's going to reappear onto the point and takes down the 76 very quickly. He will give his life for it to Hyped as Nomi hasn't raised his shield in the last 30 seconds. It is hammer time.
Well, it is hammer time, and those hammers are connecting. Mezar not able to deal with it, even picks up AZK. And if there's weak points to that Liquid defense is that they weren't very comfortable with the Torb. You saw Shadow under pressure very early on. They weren't able to keep him up. He ends up falling, and then they're just stuck trying to push that back 5v6. Not ideal, to say the least.
Well, Nomi swung that hammer, ended up getting himself about 3 kills, playing an angry version of Rein right now, and that version of him is going to mean an Earthshatter is going to be up for the next fight. ID takes on Agilities very early, though.
Well, that's where Agility was just off looking for a flank, and oh, Hype taking that nap. Meanwhile, the rest of Liquid rolling into Immortals here. They take down Grim Reality early on. Hype should be able to get out as he's woken up from that, but Liquid at least getting able to restabilize here.
Restabilize, and it's really important. The very highest part of all of Overwatch maps is going to be where AZK sets up on his Soldier 76, trying to get some damage on him. His Reinhardt will join him, so free reign over top behind these shields, trying to get as much done as possible. Meanwhile, free push happening on the card.
Well, the upside here about the high grounds, you have the option select to drop down, and that's what they're going to do. ID and Meza are going to drop down early on. Even AZK doesn't want to fight the Tracer one-on-one up there, not when he's trying to apply pressure to the rest of Immortals. But the problem is for Immortals is that they have a whole lot of ultimates coming in here, and Team Liquid will see if they can deal with this. Grim Reality, flanking Tac Visor coming in, Nano Boost, of course, supporting it. 3 unanswered kills. And Liquid just not able to deal with that at all. But it was a nice flank coming in from Grim Reality to set that up.
Well, Liquid had themselves positioned very oddly in that corner there. The charge came in to drop the Reinhardt shield, and that was all she wrote for that. They're going to try to get this late kill. Not exactly sure where Shatter went, but Shatter doing Shatter things down below. We see his outline, of course. Grim Reality does not. Shatter's still far behind his team. Grim doesn't know where it is. I'm entertained by this little mouse hunt.
Well, here comes Dragon Blade from Shatter. We'll see if this flank is effective. Going into the back, chasing after Lucia. No, he gets booped back. This play going to do absolutely nothing, and suddenly in Roadhog, in with Roadhog in a dark place, not going to be able to get away. So not a very good defensive ult there from Shatter. Actually tried to be a hero there and didn't really coordinate with the rest of Liquid. Meanwhile, defensive Graviton coming out here from ID. The fall through, not there immediately though. We do see Verbo get picked off, so Liquid trying to make the most of this defense, but it's very scrappy.
Well, what the Dragon Blade did was pull them back and allow the rest of Liquid to get in here, so not a full loss, but it does seem that Nomi is angry. Maybe at us, maybe at these other tanks on the ground. He swings through 2 more. It is just Nomi crushing it right now.
Nomi's just been swinging the hammer on the payload, and Liquid has been trying to get on other threats, have been running into the hammer, so it's worked out. Now, here's the real sad part here, Hex. The part where you don't get maintenance on your backup gate, and it's not there after the gate goes down. That's not how you protect your castle.
I had to sell my castle because the backup gate maintenance was just killing me. You have no idea what those things cost, especially when Marauders are breaking through your first gate all the time. Grim Reality in a nice flank here on the high ground. AZK does not see him and goes down very quickly.
Well, AZK going down immediately. Grim will have the opportunity to come in here at the Tac Visor. He's gonna pop it right now. Deflect is down for Shatter. He just takes bullets to the back. And Grim still has more time here to come in, look for a little bit cleanup, and Immortals looking rejuvenated here versus Team Liquid here, Hex. They've just been rolling through relatively uncontested the entire map.
The only contention they had was when they had to hunt down Shatter for about 30 seconds. They finally were able to do that and rolled all the way through. Shatter still trying to do some heroics, maybe freelancing a little too much. AZK comes in, somehow dodges that. Pulse Bomb stays alive, has his barrier up. Hype's gonna have to get out of there, but Shatter is gonna drop Grim Reality. AZK looking for targets here, finds mostly shield. Not the most productive use of 2 ults there, but I guess it'll buy him some time, at least.
It's certainly buying some time here. Of course, you see Agility's still in the back line here, but this might just account to a longer stagger. He's not going to get out of there alive, so that's a little bit unfortunate. Probably should have backed out a little bit earlier, and Team Liquid will finally get a little bit of stabilization here on Eichenwald last.
Well, they have to be very careful while this cart pushes its way back. You can't push forward, only having 5 meters, and being aware of a very sneaky back cap possible. Shatter's going to hide up top here, see if he can get some poke damage in. He does. Maybe did he spot that Tracer rolling in on the other side? It does look like the tanks want to move forward a little bit. Mez is tired of being aggressed on, but that's Nomi with the boost.
Nomi boosted up. He's going to be pushing things back here. Ethan right with them, so Mezzer falls down immediately.
Cart!
Oh no, it got what? Cart! That's unfortunate for Team Liquid, to say the least.
There's got to be a better word than unfortunate. Make your own. Fill in the blank at home, folks. We can't say it on air.
Well, Lucio with the cloak of invisibility just... Oh, that's...
Oh, demoralizing.
Yeah.
That's brutal. They were sitting in position on it, knowing it was a possibility. Then the tanks went in. Everyone else went in looking for free kills.
How smug do you think Hyped looks right now? If you had to rate his face from 1 to 10 how smug this all, knowing that we can't see it, I feel like he must be 10 out of 10 smug after that.
That smug goes up to 11. Well, I'm sure chat is filled with the appropriate emotes. We know what's going to be in there right now, but you can't lose a map like that. Now, they were not looking great like they were going to hold anyway, but that's a huge defender's advantage you have at last. Being backcapped hurts. It hurts me to watch.
Also hurts morale. I mean, it also helps morale for Immortals, right? Like I said, hyped right now. Who knows what he's looking like after that, but that is...
The backcaps will continue until morale improves. Well, moving on to this defense of Immortals. I think they do want to give it a shot. They just finished Eichenwald, one of the harder maps to finish completely at the end. They have some wiggle room here to play around with things, and you know what's better than a scrim than live practice? One of the best emotes in the game, right there.
Rock'em sock'em.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like Bastion's very good at winning this. Every time gets punched right in the chin. But take a look here at the offense coming out here from the side Team Liquid. They are going to be running with a multi-threat offense here, where it's going to be ID on the Pharah, Shatter on Genji, and AZK on the Tracer. And we'll see if Grim Reality's Bastion can deal with this. They are going to be investing quite a bit into this Bastion, but unlike before, we're not going to be seeing a D.Va support it. Perhaps teams are getting away from that, or perhaps the D.Va bug is affecting that a little bit right now as well.
Yeah, D.Va's defense matrix needs some maintenance at the moment. We have not seen very much D.Va tonight, not as in a direct opposition to a Bastion anyway, as it's not quite the Korean future vacuum that it was. We'll get a vacuum repairman on it and get it going as soon as possible. They're going to go pretty far up here, just probably give Agility's room to look for early hooks. Of course, not as many hooks coming out in the same period of time. 3 now, where it used to be 4 in 24 seconds. Look at that math, NA math. They're still looking for hooks. Bloodless so far. He's going very deep trying to get this Lucio.
He's not getting the Lucio, though. Lucio giving him the slip. The hook doesn't even hit. Now Agility's just stuck here at the corner eating rockets. He might regret some life decisions here. And yet, look at the support. Nomi comes out, says, I got you, fam. I'm just going to raise the shield and let you come back out. Doesn't land another hook, but the mission to save Agility's is it a successful one?
Bring him back, and they do bring him back. They're completely set up now. So far, no real aggression coming in from Liquid, despite running a fairly heavy dive composition. There's the hook, finally goes on Winston, but Winston will be able to leap away. No! Finally, Grego goes down. Ethan does help Agilities there. Grim is going to be focused on just that Pharah. Down from the sky, 5 quick kills from Immortals to hang, begging for sweet death. Will get it from Grim Reality.
Well, that's the one problem there, is that when you're down players early on and you come in from that angle, guess what? Grim is going to be able to mop you up. He's very good at tracking, and you're not exactly having a whole lot in his way to stop him under those situations. So, Liquid's offense right now, a little bit discombobulated. They weren't able to punish Agilities when he was out. They have, of course, a barrage and pulse bomb going to the next fight, but it hasn't really felt like Immortals has been under much pressure here.
No, ID is going to come over the top as a damage booster barrage. Still only tailed down. Beautiful save by Anomi from his Zarya, but that is a kill they get. Challenges Grim to a 1v1. Guess who wins?
He falls down immediately, and Ethan is down early on here for Immortals, though, so we'll see if they can make most of this. The hang, gonna res the fall, and Team Liquid all in on this team fight. Here comes Dragon Blade on the way out, but it's running into the Sound Bearer. Meanwhile, Grim Reality's a tank. He's taken down 2 in the back line, and this Dragon Blade from Shatter not hitting pay dirt early on, though you still see Liquid fighting in and on this point. We'll see if it's enough. Grim Reality's still very full HP, still supported, and I don't think Liquid's gonna be able to break through in this push.
If we had a scoreboard, it would tell the tale. Liquid's gotten about 2, maybe 3 kills at most so far on this attack. We are entering in to what should be part of the ultimate stage of the game, but Liquid blew a lot of theirs trying on that last attack. Defense, they're going to have Whole Hog, they're going to have the boost. Those go well together. Still, Grim has been rather unpressured most of this game. ID is sticking on this Pharah. It hasn't been his best hero lately. Still trying to get some stuff done. Damage boost over top. Maybe they can isolate Nomi, but Nomi's going to back out. Trying to find a target.
ID right now just looking for that all-important first pick. He is being supported by Mezar and Winston, and while they're in here from the back, it's Shadow from the other side, taking down 2. No Dragon Blade required. Grim, tank mode, not able to get anything, immediately taken down. And unlike for Team Liquid, Immortals does not have a resurrection on deck, and this might be all but over for this first point defense. Liquid finally finding a good method of attack. Just too many threats for Immortals to neutralize quickly.
Yeah, Grego taking down that Bastion there as he was going offensive Lucio. They're going to try to find Agilities, who is coming back in, but Agilities should be able to get out some free push here. Being very aggressive up top. I like this. Don't let them take the high ground from you. at least make them think twice about it. But look, that is a full force. They want to set up this Bastion again. Shatter trying to deny.
Well, Shatter is going to deny, takes down the Bastion immediately, doesn't even have to pull out the blade, and suddenly Team Liquid keeping Immortals on the back foot. I wonder if Immortals is going to stick with the Bastion now that it's been punished in turn. They still have tank mode, so perhaps they'll stay on it for that, but things are going from bad to worse here for Immortals. They're giving up an awful lot of ground here on second.
Well, as you say that, the card has not been pushed all that far just yet, but this is a symptom of Immortals on these second stages of maps. Hollywood comes to mind. They have a difficult time re-establishing their defense once they lose first points on these hybrid maps, and so far it has been no different. Pulse Bomb comes in, takes down Grim. Shatter continues his terror. Agilities does get to hang, but maybe Nomi can bring it back.
We'll see. Shatter, though, in the back line, holding on to Blade, can use that here for Team Liquid if necessary, but probably won't be necessary. And I gotta say, Grim Reality's been spending a lot of time here as an unconstructed set of pieces rather than actually being Bastion. So I'm not sold on the Bastion for how Immortals is trying to set it up. In second, Liquid's been dealing with it easily, and they have a lot of tools going into the next fight.
Life is difficult as a pile of scraps unless you've got a Tony Stark around to help you out. Grim Reality is going to stay onto this Bastion. He has tank mode ready. Can he just get out here on time? They are going to set up. Here comes tank mode.
Tank mode comes in. He gets nano boosted, so he's looking for the solo shots, but Mezar really mitigating a lot of it. Yes, he dies in the process, but the tank has to focus on for most of that fight. However, it's Nomi onto payload, swing the hammer, taking down 2, but there's the res coming in. Team Liquid not out of this yet, though they are down 3. AZK trying to be the hero here, but res or no res, he's lost a lot of teammates, and he's not going to be able to bring this one back.
Meanwhile, Hyped has given a D.Va sighting up as he rolls over to that, able to shut down some of the offense coming in.
In Grim Reality, he's swapped off of the Bastion now, Hex, so we were wondering how long he would stay on it, and he was staying on it just for that final tank mode, but now Immortals, realizing some of the flaws in that, going a little bit more traditional.
Configuration Tank, a very good ultimate. I don't blame him for staying on it for that one last life. But Grim and Hyped can combo and do a lot of the Bastion-style things with a shield, get D.Va and your 76 together.
Shatter diving in, gets one early off the Dragon Blade, now looking for another target, time ticking down. He just holds the blade in a fearsome stance, perhaps. But while that's going on, ID was able to win the aerial battle versus Agility, so look at the card right now. They're very close to getting in. D.Va gonna get slept towards the very end. Immortals struggling to recollapse, and it's ID. Justice reigning from above finds Grim Reality. And now Immortals very likely give this up as they just desperately try and look for some stall.
ID had his best life and continues to have his best life. He was able to take down Agilities very early in that fight, taking down his counterpart. And at the 11th hour, that will be Team Liquid capturing second point of Eichenwald.
Man, that gate was just rebuilt. Now it's getting knocked down again. Hey, if you're a gate builder in Eichenwald, this is not a bad business, I suppose.
Much like the rail builders on every other map with rails, as teams just have a violent disregard for rail builders and their union. The Earthshudder will come in, not get much on the cart at all. The Sound Barrier will come in to try to get this fight going for Liquid.
Team Liquid is counter-engaging off of that failed Earthshatter. They're moving right in. It was only Mezar in it, and now they have an opportunity. Nomi already punished, and here comes Nano Boost on the Shatter. It doesn't have a Dragon Blade to go with it, but it will help him get Dragon Blade up sooner. But oh no, ID caught out by that self-destruct. Doesn't kill this Liquid push outright, but it's going to remove a big part of their damage as now Immortals coming back in, a Nano Boost of their own onto Roadhog, and suddenly Liquid needs to just run away.
Run away they will. ID with a hero switch that we don't see very often, gonna go over to the Reaper. Do you think this is because Agilities and Nomi have been a big part of the problem? Now Hype's gonna give him more meat. Never mind, switches back to D.Va after a brief second on Winston. Maybe they saw the Reaper and got off that Winston right away. Hype will go back to the D.Va, of course, though. 3 tanks on the ground, very likely why you're seeing ID here. Reaper can be very good on Last of Eichenwald, though. A lot of purchase for him to drop down from.
I think the Reaper here is the deal with the Roadhog. As you see ID going in on the Agilities, every shot on him, and he removes him from the equation. 96% of the damage. Liquid, though, still in trouble. They're in overtime here. They have to move this cart to the end. This is their final opportunity. They're pushed off of the cart, and that is going to be it. Immortals holding on the last. Liquid having some good moments there, particularly in second, but they spent a lot of time just getting first, and they weren't able to put together on that very final push.
Yeah, it was okay for Liquid, but I mean, I still can't get over how they gave up last. That's the big story of this map to me, because it just proves it. that they're scattered right now, a little unawareness of how to really defend, and it was just tragic. You don't see backcaps very often in Overwatch, especially. Some other games perhaps, but it is absolutely rare to have at this high a level.
It's interesting to think about backcaps in Overwatch because I feel like they've happened the most on Hollywood because there's more room to get behind uncontested. It's a little weird to actually be that stealthy on a map like Eichenwald last and just get back there, but Hyped is able to find a way. That said, I feel like with 2 minutes left, Immortals probably could have found a way to get through anyways.
Yeah.
Team Liquid, I don't think it actually cost them the map in the end, but it's still something you don't want to have on your resume.
Yeah, and it just makes it does make things more difficult from a momentum perspective. That's a huge blow to morale. But I'm glad you bring this up because you guys were talking a lot about castle doors. I want to talk about the back door. Watch that back door because Hype got right on in and was able to find that cap from it. Nami, with that play of the game, maybe the algorithm got it right. I'm not going to talk about the algorithm, but let's just talk about Nami's play as the player to watch. He definitely looked a lot better than he did yesterday.
Played very aggressive. There was a stretch there where he just didn't put his shield up. They didn't need it. And going against Mez, who maybe is not in the best space to be aggressive, doesn't know where his team's going to be, just swung through him several times.
Well, Reinhardt play, it's a thin line. You're either too aggressive and you're dying quickly, or you're just in the right spot and you're finding kills. I would say it's a mix of both, where I think Nomi was playing a little bit more calculated today. But he also was not getting focused to the degree that he was in the Hammer series either. So a little bit of both, but it did combine to give Nomi a much better showing than what we saw versus Hammers.
No, when he was becoming aggressive, it was the right time to become aggressive. And maybe the rest of the team was working around that differently. And I definitely think a huge part of that is the difference between how Hammers reacted versus how Liquid reacted to that. Another thing I want to point out is agilities on the Roadhog, absolutely pivotal in that first point. But talk about agilities and his impact as far as that goes.
I think he has benefited greatly. We've talked about this as the Bastion patch, but Agilities has always played a very good Roadhog. Now it's even more worthwhile to do so. Agility's also one of the players who has never really relied on 100% on hooks. Of course, Hook did get the 2-second cooldown nerf, but getting the gun better for Agilities makes sure that he can get 2-3 kills at a time, allows him to go. He's always played great, and I think people may overlook, oh, it's Bastion, Mercy got buffed. Roadhog is in a great spot right now. I would be surprised if Agilities doesn't play more of it.
Agilities is the person that people tend to overlook sometimes in favor of Grim Reality, but I think you can make the argument in these past 2 days of play, he has arguably been the most important person for this Immortal squad, just with the high degree of consistency we've been seeing from him. And when he's been on Hog, it's rare that he doesn't get a kill in a fight. He at least gets something, and oftentimes he gets it first. So he's been a very big part of Immortal's success.
Well, and yesterday I asked, like, well, why aren't we seeing him more in Genji? Well, this is a perfect example of why. Why not? Because he has been playing so good on Roadhog. They did switch him to Genji on third. Why would they switch him to Genji just for that third point? I mean, we didn't really see it end up doing much because of the back cap, but why would you switch on third?
Well, Dragon Blade is an explosive ultimate that can take out people from last points, where maybe you go, even if you're getting pickoffs with Roadhog, we're not killing everyone at the same time. We're not doing this in a way that lets us get a clean fight. Dragon Blade, on the other hand, we've seen it get 3, 4, 5 kills in a row when properly supported with something like a nano boost. So if you feel like you're not getting enough traction to remove a defense all in one shot, Dragon Blade is one of your better go-to options to take that final point.
It's probably just switch it to go back cap. Probably.
Yeah, they all planned,
Yep.
all planned, calculated.
All according to
They knew it was going to happen. Well, the next map is Temple of Anubis. So moving on to the Assault maps, this one was selected by Team Liquid. Are they going to be bringing out AZK on the Bastion this time? Do you think that they've adapted? I think he was the one we saw it on just for a moment yesterday, or are they going to bring something else to the table?
I think going to Anubis is probably their better call here, as Immortals has been rather dominant on Hanamura generally, but they've been dominant on Assault as a whole. I think they have 1 loss in their last about 10 recorded games. Those stats aren't always 100%, but they rarely lose on Assault, so Liquid was going to be in a bad spot regardless of which Assault they took.
To your question on AZK and Bastion or not, it hasn't really felt like Liquid has had the greatest level of respect for Bastion, either in dealing with it, which they dealt with it pretty effectively in their last match versus Complexity, or playing it where they didn't have a whole lot of success with it. So I'm not really expecting it, though. When you're trying to find anything to win a series, maybe, but it seems unlikely.
Yeah, I would honestly say we'd be more likely to just see Shatter be the one carrying them on Genji. He did swap off onto 76 and a few other heroes, but I feel like he was maybe some of the reasons why they found any success on Eichenwald was he got a couple picks early with a Dragon Blade. They were able to roll through it, and he has definitely been carrying them to success in more than one fight. As we're kind of waiting to go into that game. The other thing, not to go back, not to live in the past too much, but we did see a tendency out of Immortals that came true in this last map on second. How does IMT deal with that transition between first and second on a lot of these maps?
They generally don't, has been the problem. When it's wide open and they start losing a lot after first, it seems like they don't know where they want to group up and reestablish. They end up feeding a little bit on trying to get someone in there. Maybe everyone's going high ground, but there's already someone up on high ground. I would like to see Immortals give up as much ground as they need to just firmly reestablish, get their tanks in proper position, instead of trying to say, I'm going to go hero mode, I'll get a kill that'll get us back into this fight. They're very good at playing standard when everyone's there and everyone knows their role and everyone's at their proper distances. Give up more ground, and then you'd eventually give up less ground.
All right, so we are heading into Temple of Anubis. If you're just tuning in, Immortals up 1-0 over Team Liquid. Team Liquid trying to find a way to fight back because they will be 0-4 should they lose this map here. Very important for them to try and get a W on their record.
Well, we saw a little bit of Temple of Anubis earlier this evening. Of course, we saw some Bastion, we saw some Torb, saw a little bit of Mei. What do we see coming out from the Liquid defense there, ZP?
Well, what we're seeing here is a distinct lack of Bastion, so it is showing that teams have different opinions on where his power level is. Clearly, a lot of respect for him coming in from LG earlier today and Renegades. Not so much here from Team Liquid and Immortals, who are playing this a little bit more standard. And this defense here is going to be based around counterpunching. With a defensive Tracer, Genji, and Pharah, you're going to want to dive into the offense before they dive into you.
Dive defense, dive offense coming in as well. Dive offense with the possibility of shutting down a Bastion as Hyped is on that Diva. So 2 tanks on this dive offense. It's a 2-2-2 dive, and they're going to actually put Aethan on Zenyatta. Don't see much of that.
No, you don't. Aethan usually known for being on a rain, sleet, or shine, but the early dive here is effective. They find Aethan out on that Zen. Mezar gives his life for it, though, so Nomi's there to punish. And though this is 4v4 right now, you gotta like this for Immortals because the respawns come in a little bit quicker as Liquid struggling to really push all this out effectively.
They can definitely stay in and continue fighting if they want to. It hasn't been that one-sided. Grim's going to take down Grego. That is a D-suited Diva's taking on Agilities. Will dash through ID in the sky and start putting a little bit of pressure on this point. Another dash reset.
Well, the dash resets are definitely putting this over the top here for Immortals. 3 kills in a row, and the remnants of Team Liquid just thrown off. Remember, the people who died early on are still running back to the point. They're not able to reinforce, and fortunately for Team Liquid, they just weren't able to get any decisive kills that weren't a trade early on, so they give up point A relatively swiftly.
And once they lost Aethan, Verbo started playing much more cautiously to give his team some bit of healing. They were able to take out to Hang in turn 2, so they were able to stabilize things as far as supports go, and now Agilities continues to actually, Agilities almost has his Dragon Blade up, as does Grim Reality's Pulse Bomb almost at the ready. They've got the Winston in a corner.
Agilities right now, will this be enough to put Immortals over the top? They're trying to take this right here, right now, but Grim Reality is down. Agilities, Dragon Blade in the back, slicing, looking for anything, does pick up one, gets onto the Ana, and hey, this could have potential here yet. There are spawn changes. He's about to get Grego. Agilities is taking down 4 here, make it 5 effectively with the aid of Hype. So Immortals going to be picking up at least 1 tick, well on their way to the second. Team Liquid in a bind.
Well, it's going to be difficult. That's why you see them grouping up. They don't want to come out one by one against a team running a Zenyatta because you will just get discorded and deleted. Regardless, 2 more kills. Aethan and Grim. Here comes the Transcend.
The Transcend is out. Immortals dominant position on the point. So close to finishing this out. This would be a wicked fast time, and it is looking like it's in that situation. Shatter trying to be the hope in the back. Dragon Blade only killing 1, and they're so close here. Hex, they just need 1 more moment of uncontested time. Just a little bit more here for Immortals, and they're going to have point B. Liquid streaming onto that point, but it is not enough. That is a very quick point B tank here from Immortals, and got to give credit where credit is due. We were talking about Agilities and his consistent Roadhog play.
Yep.
Talk about the Genji play there. That was very decisive.
Made his name on Genji, where he first started. way long ago, and I think a smaller tournament, we noticed him. He was playing one of the best Genjis we'd seen in a very long time. Of course, has rotated off of that to play some Roadhog, but Agility's known for his cyber agility, closing that out. I'm just really happy we got a glimpse of Boston ZP there.
Oh, yeah, I did pull that out there. I do have plenty of family up in the Northeast. I don't have the accent, which would probably be very grating to people if I did, but let me just say that more than one family member up in good old Boston.
It was a wicked fast time, you're right. Well, that is going to be very difficult for Liquid to be. We talked about Immortals generally just dominant on assault maps, and Immortals, I mean, we use the term a lot, but playing with the house money, they could give up second point and still be up in the time bank. I do not see Liquid finding a way to go faster than that, but I'm willing to be surprised. At the moment, Liquid's offense looks like they want to switch things up. I would be very surprised if Mezzer comes out on this Bastion. Would not surprise me as much if ID stays on this Widowmaker.
Mezar's probably messing around. I don't think he's coming out with that. That would be a straight switch up, even in an era where Reinhardt's apparently just have some unrelated to tank main that they like playing, whether it be Tracer, Widowmaker, or otherwise. Mezar would be adding to that category if he was a Reinhardt main that played Bastion, but doesn't seem super likely.
No, it's always the Reinhardts who want to switch off and spawn for that brief moment of life. You know, seeing life without the shield blocking party view. Blue tinted glasses must wear on you from time to time. Mez is going to switch over to the Winston instead, but ID has made a large impact on this map before as the Widowmaker. He's going to stick on it. We'll see what he can get done.
All right, and Mezar, of course, on the Winston, going to be looking to create some space for ID as he looks for those early pickoffs. But a lot of threats coming out here from Team Liquid, and they are more than happy to trade out in a similar vein to Immortals and how they ran their offense just a moment ago. Pressure, though, on ID. Looking for this early pickoff. Has a Genji in his face. Nomi's already down, though, so for Team Liquid, this is a bad opening. They have to apply pressure on the ID, but while they're doing that, the rest of Liquid starting to move on to the point.
Well, Shatter is taking down my Grim Reality, so they've equalized 5v5. Agilities wants to stay healthy because he's going to be the primary person who wants to take down ID and make him at the very least uncomfortable. You see him even spamming over there as he tries to reposition himself. So far, though, Liquid stymied. Have to wait for AZK to get back here. They pulled out entirely.
That was looking good for Liquid in the very beginning, but after they lose Shatter a little bit later on, and the fact that they got no Widowmaker picks made it really just stall out and run out of steam. And ID, he's had enough with Widow. He's going for more consistency here, swapping to the 76.
Makes sense. Grim Reality is going to take this high ground here on the 76, not give himself up to sightlines. But now that he sees there's no Widow there, he's more than happy coming in and playing up over top right now. Very spread out. Grim hits a beautiful Helix onto AZK.
AZK down. This is going to free up Grim a little bit more. You have Mezar on him, but Mezar didn't have the health to contest Grim Reality. Grim Reality just says, okay, turns, shoots, takes him out. And the cleanup here, very decisive from the side of Immortals. They just finish it all out.
Over the last 2 months, it just feels that Mezar finds himself alone more often than not. You have to question some of the coordination going on with his team simply by what we see put on in the game. Of course, yes, they are dealing with new shot calling issues that can't be easy to deal with, but Mezar has found himself on an island more often than tanks like.
Well, this could be a very sword-filled fight. Shatter almost with a Dragon Blade. Agilities already has a Dragon Blade, and that could be a party room in the process here. Agilities, Dragon Blade up and ready. Hasn't used it yet, but here comes Nano Blade. Using Dragon Blade, looking for that 3-slash. Not able to get immediately, but does find ID. Gets one, makes it two, and does take down everyone who dares enter that room.
Well, the knife party comes to fruition. Agility's winning out on that. Mez is in here trying to stall out, get something going. He's got Primal Rage. He's looking to take down Agility's by punching him. He does have to get out because Mez, again, all alone. Nomi finds AZK as well. 90 seconds left for Liquid to even take this first point and extend the map CP.
Well, Liquid just gets cleaned up there, and unfortunately for them, Agility's had a great Nano Blade to pull that fight back. Liquid had early kills there, but when you're that clumped up, it's basically a Genji paradise.
So getting down to what probably is going to be one of the last pushes, Shatter is going to have to pull off a hero play. He's going to have Dragon Blade up to hang, not close to giving him a boost, no one close to being able to help him out. Perhaps a combination of Sound Barrier Dragon Blade is their best hope.
Well, Shatter definitely going to have to find a way through. I tend to agree that Sound Barrier Dragon Blade will be their best hope here. And you got to think that Grim Reality is, oh no. Agility's taking down Shatter before he can even consider how to get in on Grim Reality. and that's just going to kneecap this push before it even begins.
They might be able to stay in. Nomi goes down. They have to be very careful. They get very cautious. Sound Barrier will go down, but again, no Grim in this fight. Hype takes down Grego. ID has traded out with Ethan.
Well, Agility's right now being sneaky, creeping from the back. Grim back in the fight. Tac Visor up, immediately takes down 3. And imagine how that fight could have gone there, Hex, if Shatter didn't die before the Sound Barrier.
The world may never know. Silver lining, they will have Sound Barrier, or they will have the Dragon Blade and a boost, very likely. ID back alive with Attack Visor.
Well, final fight underway. Mezar gonna have to throw his scientist body onto the point. We'll see how this works out. ID opens the very open Tac Visor. Team Liquid all in on this point. Agility's holding the back line, waiting for a flanking Dragon Blade. Shatter already in on his Dragon Blade, hasn't gotten much. 2 kills here from Liquid, though, as perhaps they're putting Immortals back. We'll see. Agility's slashing it around. Doesn't get much from it, but Agility's and Grim Reality are still alive here, so Liquid hasn't necessarily gotten this yet. Although, as I say, that Grim doesn't throw onto the point, and they do, in fact, get it. So, Liquid buying themselves at least another 4 minutes of time.
Just shy of 4 minutes comes in. ID going to make the switch over yet again, as we saw onto Eichenwald. He's going to switch over to Reaper instead. Everyone else remaining on their heroes for the most part. We'll see how defense wants to transition. Looks like Liquid wants going right away. They're getting very aggressive here, trying to jump the point immediately.
Well, they don't want Immortals to set up, and ID catches Verbo off guard. 2 unanswered kills here. Winston getting melted down by the swap to Reaper, and Reaper for ID right now working out very well for Team Liquid. They swarm onto the point, and Immortals has been caught with their pants down here, Hex.
Never a great feeling. There's going to be some wall riding for Grego. That is his specialty. Hype does come back, takes down Grego. Actually, Verbo was the one wall riding. That is 1 kill for the defense. This Primal Rage could be huge. At least just install it out. Now they got a diva on the point as well.
It might be huge, but ID landing shot after shot into the tanks that are respawning here. Should be able to finish off Winston in just a moment. No, he's not. Nomi do with a little bit of dance maneuvering there. Doesn't die. And Liquid will get thrown off the point. And Hex, something just occurred to me. You're wondering why I say they're party rooms. You never played Heroes of the Storm, but in Heroes of the Storm, the common push or common term is party bush.
Yeah.
And it's 4 people sitting there waiting to just murder the poor sap that runs by it next.
I played some Heroes of the Storm. I just didn't play with good people who did those kind of things, and I was always on the receiving end. So for me, it was a murder bush for the most part.
No, it's a party. It's always a party where you just run back to your fountain. But
regardless, I think we have found the secret to motivate players. We simply have to call them out because Nomi has played out of his mind in both maps we've seen so far.
Well, ID right now coming in has Death Blossom, looking for an opportunity. Doesn't want to throw it in the shields, and can't really throw it out there. Just not great. Surrounded on all sides. But Shatter is still getting work done here in the backline. Took down Grim early on, and Liquid, they already have 2 ticks here, Hex. If they get a few kills, they could get that final bit that they need. And with the Sound Barrier, they are all in, trying to finish this out. Genji versus Genji here underneath. Agility's going to fall, and Liquid not giving up here just yet.
Well, here comes Nomi back onto the point, though, and he gets Grego right away as Nomi's been the difference maker. Grim on this defensive Baron now trying to say this guy is going to take down Mez. That is enough kills to push them back. ID is going to have to retreat all the way out. He's getting chased, getting low, gonna wraith his Reaper out of there and go to safety, but another clutch hold. 90 seconds left. Perhaps a big Death Blossom incoming, though.
So the problem here for Team Liquid is that they only have 1:30 left, as you just mentioned. Aethan, a little bit too far out there. Now,
that's fine.
6v5 opportunity.
He wants
if
to
they
go to support
now.
anyway, though.
He might want to go on support, but now he's not going to be out of here. And this is a brief moment where ID, sneaky around the back line, immediately takes down Nomi with those Hellfire shotguns. Now, potentially very good opportunity for Death Blossom. He's going to use it. Does not get hit by the sleep dart. Aethan, uncharacteristic miss. And Team Liquid with a real chance of finishing this out. Everyone onto the point, and they will finish it out. Hex, we're going to another round of Anubis.
We are, but there is a very large disparity between the time left in those time banks. 5:42 on one side, a mere 60 seconds on the other. I do really like the Reaper switch, though, because it opened things up for Shatter. Nomi had been a problem for him coming in. Also, just very good in those close quarter fights that are generally going to happen on the last point of an assault map. ID got some solid work done on his Reaper.
I mean, when you have a scientist problem, Hellfire shotguns are a great way of ruining his research and removing him from the equation. So Winston, of course, doesn't mix well with Reaper. Despite what you might see from some of the cinematics, really, Winston stays dead most of the time.
I hate when I have a scientist infestation, leaving their vials of chemicals and lab coats everywhere. What a mess. Regardless, like I said, 1 minute left for the attack for Team Liquid. They struggled getting in very early and taking decisive fights, and with only 1 minute, very unlikely that they're going to have any sort of ultimates to push in. But if they are able to take it, then we'll see what Immortals can do there. The disparity to me is just the time that they have. Seems like a very overwhelming difference. Team Liquid, 1 minute to push first point.
Team Liquid, effectively, if they want any hope of actually bringing this through, what they're going to need to do is not only take first on the first attack, but then roll it in, keep momentum, and get second. They effectively need 2 lightning-fast attacks here, which is unlikely, but not unprecedented. So Immortals, they need to make sure the defense here is airtight.
ID and Hang are going to be running the combo. No Widowmaker so far, and Shatter, of course, on Genji. AZK on Tracer. Looks like a lot of comfort picks. Mez is going to be on the Winston as well. A pretty divey composition. Will they go support Mez as he dives in right over top?
So at least right now trying to get on that Fair Mercy combo with Grim on the Mezar early on. This is going to let Immortals not worry about a monkey in their face. They can move back and really just flush Team Liquid out, and that's what they're doing here. Grim very easily just rolling forward. All targets open to him, nothing in his way. Agility's even piling on, so Liquid, they try and dive in, but after a death of Mezar, it just all goes the wrong way. 14 seconds left remaining. We'll see if they can even touch the point. Mezar's going to have to sacrifice his body once more just to keep Team Liquid in this.
They're running all the dive heroes, but they're not executing dives at all. They get pushed very far back. Only 5 seconds left to go. Grego's going to have to come in here. Here comes Mez trying to get up here, but so far, no kills. Shatter goes down early.
Shatter is already out of the equation. Athan taking him down with prejudice. Immortal swarming over the point. Meanwhile, Liquid, they just have to stay in the point. It's in overtime. If they stop touching it, it is over. Grim will fall to ID, but ID doesn't have a whole lot of support left here as Athan, another kill. Here comes Agility's Dragon Blade, looking to just mop up the remainder of Team Liquid. Not even necessary because they're already dead. Immortals holding on here in Anubis extra rounds. And Hex, they have almost 6 minutes to take first, which is more than what you get to take first under normal circumstances.
It would be a historic defense, to say the least, but if they pull it off, maybe that's the shot in the arm that Liquid needs. A tall order, to say the least.
If Immortals failed to take this point here, they would be pulling a Liquid. If Liquid were to take this point, it would be the anti-Liquid. So we are going against some very long-running historical trends in terms of how these teams perform with overwhelming advantages, or in this case, Team Liquid, an overwhelming disadvantage.
Oh, I do remember the first night of this tournament,
Yes.
Liquid had a chance, to push win with 6 minutes, and
They did get it through, but we were tentatively
worried.
scared.
I was very worried, that's right. Well, 5 minutes and 42 seconds. A long time to hold on defense. Immortals can run whatever they want, and several times over. I wouldn't mind to see them run the Junkrat, but apparently they just want to play with explosives in spawn.
You can play with explosives in spawn, you can play with them in the actual game, but you are most likely right. Meanwhile, looking at the defense coming out here from Team Liquid. ID going to be on the defensive fair. They're running dive defense here, which I kind of question a little bit.
Yeah.
Because dive defense can stall a lot of time, but the odds that you stall for 5 minutes and 40 seconds, I feel like they'd almost want to use something a little bit more traditional. But either way, this is the horse that Team Liquid has decided to ride. We'll see how it rolls out.
Athan is again going to be on the Zen, and again eliminated very, very early, perhaps just trying out our favorite Robo Monk.
Well, we do see pressure on Lucio here from Agilities. He's not able to finish out, but Grim in the back finishes what was started by Agilities. Immortals trading out very effectively here. Shatter trying to bring it back, but he is losing teammates left, right, and center. Soon it's going to be Shatter and AZK versus the world. They're staying in here as flanking defense, but Immortals clearly winning these trades, clearly getting more onto the point. Shatter and AZK both going to fall. And any dreams of an incredibly long 6-minute hold coming out from Liquid are going up in smoke here, Hex. Point A nearly captured. We do have a few members of Team Liquid flooding back onto that point, but this is as low percentage as it gets. Mezar not able to withstand, and Immortals looking like they're just a moment away from finishing out Anubis and going up 2-0 in the series.
Some last second stall out as you see the hope for Liquid die in front of you. They are down 2-0 in the series. Did not look great for them. Their offense was okay, but 5 minutes. No one can hold for 5 minutes.
Well, for Team Liquid, they couldn't even hold for a minute there. So that would be the bigger step to start with early on.
Have to agree. Hyped back on the Diva. That's where we're used to seeing his name over the pinkest of mechs.
Oh my God.
Ana
And
play
Ana
the game?
play the game? Really?
We'll see what happens.
I don't even want to speak.
Just enjoy the moment.
So the reaction to that is just we almost never see Ana play the games ever. So shout outs to Ethan for making it happen, of course. Also shout outs to Genji for not getting a 4 kill or something that usually steals it from an Ana.
Well, and that's the thing. Let's not question the algorithm too much because Ethan did play extremely well, and they were staying alive in some pretty scrappy fights. And you could even see AZK and Shatter were doing everything they could to pull fights back in their favor, but they just couldn't do it. And I want to go all the way back to point number 1, though, because we have a lot to talk about. We're going to try to only talk about a few things because we want to move it on to the next map. But agility's on Genji. So we watched on second. They got a very, very fast take. And something that I think was on stream that we might have missed is agilities went in, got a couple kills, and then actually got out the nade from, I guess it was Sherlock, is it? Goodness gracious. No, anyway, from Dehang.
Yeah.
And then right following that, we had a Transcendence. And I could just imagine the comms in that moment. You know, hey, nades out, boom. And that was one of the major contributing factors. A couple early kills, pulling out the nade, and they were able to secure it. But talk about agilities coming through this match.
I mean, it was very good Genji play. There's nothing much more to say on it beyond the fact that he was able to find opportunities, get in, get a first pick off, follow through with the Dragon Blade, and when you get that level of contribution from your Genji, you don't have to ask that much from players like Grim Reality to finish out your attack.
The Genji's natural predator is a Winston, and Mez is not as comfortable on Winston. He never has been. While he is a world-class Reinhardt, I still think he's not where he needs to be on Winston. But again, a lot of it is he's going in, he dies alone a lot of times, especially on offense. The dive's not there to support him. I'm not going to put this all on Mez. Not at all. I'm not trying to say that.
I mean, as far as that goes, I think Winston was the least of their problems there. And in fact, if you take a look at the previous series that Liquid had, I thought Mez had a pretty good Winston series against Complexity where he was able to do things like deal with Bastion and everything else. I just think the bigger problem is that when you're running a dive defense like Liquid was running, they were just losing a lot of individual one-on-one battles. They were trading out badly. And it was a team-wide thing. It was a team effort where Immortals was just a cut above in most areas.
Yeah, one adaptation that I actually really liked from Liquid was ID on the Reaper. He was able to get in, get a couple of kills, but they just weren't able to actually complete the fight on second and take it in a timely enough manner. But what do you think about Reaper in this meta? We don't talk about him very much. Does he have a place?
I think against a team like Immortals, he definitely has a place, as Immortals will generally run 3 tanks in there. They were running a Winston, they were running a Diva, and you'll see a Roadhog from them more often than not. Now, that was on Eichenwald why they switched over so that he could take out the Roadhog. But I think against a team like Immortals, yeah, he's got his place. Not sure if it's always going to be the game-breaking thing. You're not going to see the 5K Death Blossoms that you used to.
No, you won't be seeing that. But on the other hand, in the defense they were dealing with there, the defense was letting Liquid in to begin with, and that's a very small area on Anubis Last where Reaper, you can't really use terrain to get away from him all that often. In fact, he's going to be using terrain to get the jump on you. So I thought the Reaper swap up from ID was very good, and clearly it was able to tear through Nomi on his Winston, get rid of him early on, Primal Rage or no Primal Rage, and very much was an effective switch up there from Liquid.
It just wasn't quite enough. And that puts Liquid in a very sticky. I mean, they've been in a sticky situation this whole time, but it keeps getting worse and worse as they're now down 0-2 in the series, and they're going into Oasis. And we don't have a lot of data from Oasis going back in competitive play as far as map preferences. But who do you think is favored in the chaotic environment that ends up being Oasis?
Immortals. And you don't even have to look at Oasis to make that proclamation. You can look at general team trends where even if there is a incentive to play a map or where you might think you're weaker on a map, Immortals has proven to be a much stronger team in recent times, in third-party tournaments and everything else, that it's hard to say that Liquid is favored on anything they take Immortals on.
I would agree. Immortals' best control map lately has been Nepal, so anything that wasn't going to be that, but I still would favor Immortals. Liquid has about a 50-50 on every control map. What makes me fearful for Liquid here is that they might think that we're going to go to Oasis and run our combo, and that's going to be taking it, and their combo has been mediocre and lacking in a lot of areas lately.
Well, we will see what Liquid decides to come out with here, but it is looking like we're going to be seeing something similar perhaps to what they were running on Anubis a moment ago in terms of multi-threat, but it's hard to say. I mean, Dahang was on Mercy to begin with, now it's on the Ana. ID still figuring out what he wants to play, but take a look at Immortals. They're pretty much locked in here, Hex, and they will be running a Pharah, but not with a Mercy to combo with it.
Which is fine. We've seen Agilities run it without a Mercy before to great effect. Runs a very pokey Pharah until he sees an opening and will go in. He will be following on Nomi as he dives in, and Hype will be there as well. So Ethan very good at keeping Agilities alive, even though he'll be on the Ana rather than the Mercy. It seems like Liquid, if they stick with this, just want to go very tank heavy. They're making some changes now. AZK is going to go over to Tracer instead, but I prefer ID and Dahang on this D.Va and Ana over their combination.
It'll be interesting to see how it works out. I do prefer ID on D.Va, period, because I think when Liquid is playing well, ID was having good times on D.Va, whether or not she's that strong this patch or not. So we'll see if it works out here, if it'll give enough space to the rest of Team Liquid as they look for these opportunities.
While they do prioritize high ground, does Liquid, they take that away immediately. Shatter on the Soldier 76. He's getting damage. He does not know exactly where, but on the high ground means that you're not contesting the point. We'll see where the battle eventually comes to a head here if they have to drop down. Hype is going to try to find Shatter up top, has to rewind out of there immediately. So far, very bloodless fight, but just as I say that, D-Macked and Mezer goes down as well.
Mezer goes down. Hype trying to get onto Ana. No, he just gets slipped on. Dahang not able to stay alive either towards the back of Team Liquid, so it is a full and thorough team wipe. But you gotta look at that. Even though Ethan does eventually fall, he distracts Hype for so long, makes Hype take so long to finish that kill that by the time Ethan does go down to other circumstances, just too little, too late.
Very clean first take for Immortals. They lost only one, maybe two in that as they got DMAC, but now in good position here. They can set up wherever they want on defense. It seems like they don't necessarily prioritize high ground. They'll send one person up there, but this is just a wrap around. The fight, meanwhile, taking place on the other side of the map.
Well, this is a problem here where we've seen this happen with Immortals where Grim wasn't there for the start of the fight. Nomi died before he fired a shot effectively. Now he can come back in, but Immortals still with 5 people up have given up control of the point. Not really where you want to be. They were actually looking a bit confused in how they want to handle that. Grim, though, is holding on to Attack Visor, can use it, but it's going to be Shatter. He uses the first Attack Visor here between the two, but immediately falls to Nomi as Immortals now going to be looking to take their stand.
Great play by Nomi to drop that Winston shield right in front of the Tactical Visor, able to mitigate most of that damage and then get the kill as he just jumped inside and outside of his own Winston fishbowl there. Agility's over the sky on the cleanup, takes down Dahang. Both supports now down for Liquid, and they are going to be on the chase here. Have to be worried about a stagger, but at some point they have to take over the point too.
Well, they did take over the point before in a moment when Immortals was distracted, and Liquid still has control of the point. In fact, they're still staggering in, so even though Immortals is in a huge advantage here, it takes them a while to get back control of the point, so Liquid perhaps getting away with some there as far as progress goes. The downside for Liquid is that they are horribly outgunned in power going to the next fight. 6 ultimates to 1, not where you want to be.
Not at all. They do have more people holding the high ground now, so it's not just Grim up there. They are going to rotate onto the high ground. Is Liquid. Hype's got people in his sights with his Pulse Bomb.
Oh, the Pulse Bomb, though, connects. Grego takes that Pulse Bomb right to the face, and now, fortunately here for Team Liquid with that early Pulse Bomb pick, probably not going to be able to go in, and they haven't really drained out as much from Immortals as they would have liked to have done. So, starting to get the do or die here for Team Liquid. They have maybe a fight, or maybe 2 fights, but it's going to be very much on the margin.
That economy, as you mentioned, looking very good for Immortals. They did throw down Primal Rage and Pulse Bomb. Pulse Bomb, not that big of a deal. Liquid finally getting their way up to Ultimate's. Agility trying to dive in deep, gets a barrage going.
Barrage is on the way. Does get mitigated a bit by D.Va early on, and he just gets taken down. So Liquid with the Sound Barrier, now aggressing into Immortals. Immortals, though, still holding on the tools here. ID is going to go down in just a moment here. Defensive Matrix or no. Grim Reality, Tac Visor, hitting Pay Dirt. 2 kills immediately. And Immortals holding on to the point here, 94%. Earth Shatter comes in from Mez, but see if it's enough. They still haven't dealt with Grim, who's more than content to sit here in the back and land all sorts of damage.
Yeah, Grim on the high ground. It's the story of how teams lose to Immortals all the time. AZK comes in, though, and gets a couple kills of his own. Still, Liquid has not been able to flip this back. Now they finally do, thanks to Hang hitting a nice grenade onto Verbo. They will clean that up, but Immortals only has to win one more fight. However, they used all their ultimates trying to defend, were unable to do so, so Liquid still with the economy advantage. Still, though, Immortals has to win one fight. Liquid, 2, maybe 3.
For Immortals, they can be content with losing this next fight. So long as they drain out the tac visor, it's going to be totally fine. They can, of course, get an early pick up to where they take it anyways, but they're not under the same pressure that Liquid is under right now. And Mezar, he gets caught out. Immortals collapses on him, and this forces Shatter into the tac visor. He's going to try and turn this fight back. Picks up 2 kills, so very likely going to do just that. But that is a very important ultimate used here on Control, and they're not going to have it for the next setup here when Immortals comes back in at full strength.
Well, it is going to be the last fight either way, regardless of who wins it, will win this stage, as Liquid now at 90%, 99% still for Immortals. Starts out with a nice air rocket onto Verbo. Agility's in trouble. Agility's air rocket helixed.
Oh my goodness, that was a huge helix spray up from Shatter there. Makes it a double kill. Shatter, superhero mode for Team Liquid. Immortals already down 2 players. Can they bring this back? Grim does have tac visor. Where is he on this visor? He's coming in over the top. Will he get anything from him? No, he just has to run away. The least effective tac visor of all time because Shatter had the nano boost, just ran into him and took him out. Team Liquid finishing out the remainder of Immortals on this point, and Hex, they're on the verge of taking this first round here on Oasis.
They are. Agilities is running away, trying to get something. He will solo ult Shatter there to try to get him down, but too late as Team Liquid takes stage 1.
Much better performance there from Team Liquid, although what can you say there about Shatter, where he just throws out the raw helix rocket and hits a Pharah in midair? You don't see soldiers do that often, not because it's not that it's that hard to hit, but it's a risk where you'd rather use your helix more in consistent ways. But Shatter takes the risk, removes him from the equation, and really just keeps that fight in Team Liquid's favor.
Shatter's got style. Now that last stage, you generally don't see the pharmacy combos on either side because it is much smaller, so if that's a stage that you don't run it, this is a stage you definitely do run it. Both teams queued up on Pharah and Mercy together. Ethan and Agilities for Immortals, ID into Hang. That will be the battle in the sky. Battle on the ground just as important, though. There will be a Diva for this side of Team Liquid. It's going to be Shatter running that.
Interesting that we see Shatter on the Diva here and not on something like a 76. We'll see if it works out.
Whoa,
Meanwhile,
okay.
Shatter able to get on the Nomi early on. So, for now, the Diva pick certainly doing some work here for Team Liquid, and Immortals kind of struggling to figure out how they want to go back to this. Either way, aerial battle won by Agilities. That is a way to get back in. He makes it a double kill, just double dunking on the Hang. Agilities, 200 health, damage boosted. Could very well pull this right back for Immortals.
Well, we've seen this stage in particular be very difficult to capture at all. Agility is getting bullied out by the Winston. Nomi on the ground has taken 3 of his own in this Winston. Very impactful scientist play so far. Nomi on the ground with his rest of his team. They are getting the kills they need. Still the combo, a presence in the sky, but in the sky does not count as on the point. Immortals will capture it first.
Immortals able to turn that right back despite the early pickoff there from Team Liquid. And again, we're going to see how this Diva comes into play here. I will say that this is a pretty good area for self-destruct. You can catch teams off guard with it. Ethan right now lucky not to go down early on his ID in hot pursuit of that Pharah Mercy combo. The fight is on the ground, the fight is in the air, but it's Agilities taking down ID early on, hyped winning the Tracer v Tracer, and Immortals just won their mirrors there, Hex.
That's all you have to do is win your duels. They remain in control at this point. Not enough bodies out here for Liquid to even attempt to contest, so they will fall back and regroup. Ultimates now up for Immortals, Resurrection, Barrage, and Tactical Visor. Nomi about to have his almost fully loaded for the side of Immortals.
Immortals is in a great position here. Even if they're losing now, they'd be at 50%, but they're likely going to be able to cash in these ultimates for 1, if not 2 team fight victories, which is pretty close to what they need to finish out the map. So Liquid going to have to find a way of turning this round sooner rather than later. Here comes the self-destruct in from Shatter. Will it hit pay dirt? No, it hits nothing. Hyped is already out of this fight. 5v5 on the point as Mezar in the prime range gets some decent value. Picks up 2, and Liquid not out of this here just yet, but here comes the flanking tac visor from Grim Reality in all likelihood. Doesn't pop the tac visor here just yet though, holding on to it.
Barrage still at the ready, but they have to find some way to win a fight decisively. That's going to help as the ground war underway. Liquid will win that. Shatter and AZK getting the final kills there. ID now coming over the top, has his barrage ready too. Though Immortals didn't have to use much in that fight, they still have their ults.
Well, they still have their ultimates, and perhaps they saved it rather intentionally there with the idea of going, we're just going to roll back in, retake this, and we might win outright off the retake. Hang already down in this fight. No tac visor required. Aerial battle underway. ID versus Agilities. ID getting bullied out, running out of space. Going to take a dip in the ocean if he doesn't reverse, but one shot on the Agilities, firing back. While this air fight is going on, both teams still fighting for the ground war, and Immortals hanging on to so many ultimates here, Hex.
They haven't been able to finish the fight decisively, and meanwhile, it just keeps ticking up for Liquid. A beautiful pulse bomb takes down Grim, Maz takes down Hype. Here comes the Resurrection.
The Resurrection's out, and now you got to think Sound Bear's coming in, and Immortals will be all in. There's the barrier, and now here comes Attack Visor. Immortals finally cashing in those ultimates. They want to take this point now, but Grim gets very little done. Isolated out by both Shatter and AZK, and Liquid might be holding despite the advantage that Immortals should have had. They bring in the res. Liquid not wanting to give up this point now.
Now, despite the Resurrection, it is Liquid cleaning up the fight. After Resurrection, AZK has had himself a nice life on this Tracer. He's finished up a lot of kills. So it is getting down to it. Liquid poised to take a lead here in the percentages. They do. Next fight may be the decider at 75% on either side here. Agilities seems like he's been holding that barrage for a while. Barrage on the other side ready to.
Agilities will have to fight some way here, and unfortunately for Immortals, they don't have the advantage that they once had. We'll see if they can turn this around. They still only need one fight, but Nomi gets Mezar early on. 6v5 opportunity now for Immortals. Where is Agilities? Fighting ID up over the top here once more. Both Farah's getting into it, but Agilities looking more to the ground war here, ignoring ID a little bit more. Finds the hang, though. That's a massive pickoff. ID still holding into a barrage. Not a whole lot of help to use it. Will he find a moment? Drops the barrage in over the top, takes down one before falling. Getting pretty scrappy on the point, but Immortals with a slight edge.
He was most certainly going to fall, popping barrage at 34 health. Shatter takes down Agilities in turn. No more soldiers on the sky. The ground war is what matters at this point in time. Remember, Liquid is the one with the point. It's going to be up to Immortals to full wipe it to flip it back over. It does not look like it's going to happen.
Well, that pulse bomb was eaten by the defensive matrix at the very end, and for Immortals, they let Liquid off the hook and then some here. Not only did Immortals start out this round very strong with a dominant advantage, they also had the thing where they had many ultimates left to retake the point, and it just didn't happen.
Perhaps holding on to them for a little too long at points in time, questionable. They seem like they couldn't find the perfect spacing. Maybe getting a little greedy with those ultimates overall, but that is Liquid trying to claw their way back into this series, and by extension, the Overwatch Carbon series as a whole. They will run their combo yet again. Shatter's going to be on Soldier 76. He's proven he can play more than just Genji. We'll see how it turns out. Hyped is going to be rotating onto the Diva. Actually, Agility is going to have to win this battle without his own Mercy. Aethan, last second switch onto Ana.
Well, this is where I think they don't want to commit as much to combo play here. Instead of playing this perhaps a little bit more traditionally, going, you guys can run the combo, we're going to win it the other way around. But certainly this is time where something must change here for Immortals. Agility's in over the top, laying rockets in the Mezar here. Mezar, though, still alive, but the Bionade sealing his fate. Now up in the air, Farah v Farah. ID versus Agilities, and ID giving Agilities a very rough time.
Well, if they can create some space, then Aethan should be able to help out in the combination as well, as he'll be able to throw in some shots, throw in some nades, and keep his healing alive. So there it is right now. Grim trying to just stall out the point. So far, no one has captured it.
No one has captured it just yet. Liquid showing much more resilience here on Oasis than they have all series long. But Agilities from the turn takes down two. This is still a fight here as Grim now looking for a miracle at the bottom. Throws down the pulse bomb, does not stick. It's going to be Team Liquid taking this first capture in the end. And man, that was back and forth.
Lucio with some sick dance moves. I thought he was going to get stuck, but a last-second shoulder dip is going to keep him alive and away from those pulse bombs. Liquid gets first capture here, and very important first capture, as they should be able to rain down some damage over the top. They're just going to wait for people to jump in the jump pad. So far, it has been all Liquid on Oasis.
Liquid getting into Immortals' face first here again. We'll see if it pays off. ID looking for early targets. Not doing as much on this Pharah in the very beginning. but it's Oasis. Everything is split out. At this time, Grim Reality finds Shatter pretty early on, but the Resurrection is out. Brings him back up. ID, 2 off the barrage. Another barrage coming up from Agilities. Lots of fireworks going off here, and that res might have saved Team Liquid. They still have 4 on the point, still pushing back Immortals, and Agility's not able to deep dive the way he wants to because he doesn't have that Mercy on him.
That has been one of the big differences here. Ground War also being cleaned up by Liquid, Shatter, Mez, AZK, all getting in on the action. It has been a fruitless endeavor for Immortals to try to take this point. They've got almost nothing going for them. When they are getting kills, it's 1, maybe 2 at most. It's been very difficult for them to string kills together. They are now off of that Ferret. Has done nothing for them. Agilities onto the Genji instead.
I like the switch up here for Immortals, if for nothing else, because they haven't been doing as much with the Pharah. We'll see if the Genji can turn this around. They do need to isolate out ID over the top, but self-destruct comes in. Doesn't do much. Immortals now getting into the back of Team Liquid. AZK gets away with all of 10 HP. So if you take a look at Grim, he already has taken down Shatter in this fight. 5v5. AZK isolates down Nathan. So it's back and forth, but the Genji has done more work here. Immortals finally on the verge of getting their first cap of this round.
It's a good switch to finally get off it, and look at that. Grim with the absolute cleanup. One of the things that Agilities brings on his Genji is his survivability, his escapability. So many people with eyes on him. It lets Grim operate a little more unfettered. There's less attention onto Grim, and you saw it with a 3K cleanup there towards the end. So Immortals finally flipping the point back over, but they have to hold it, and they can't afford to lose a single fight.
They must be perfect here, and this is going to mean that Verbo will drop the sound barrier early. He does do just that, but they let them catch! What was that? Oh my goodness, and now this is really rough for Immortals. They're not going to get progress throughout the entirety of this. Team Liquid is able to top themselves up to 99%. And Shadow right now, looking for some shenanigans. In over the top, uses the boost pad, just mows down Grim Reality. Flanking Tac Visor underway here as Liquid might be retaking this. They already retook it. They might be winning the fight and taking the map.
I just have no idea where the point awareness is this entire set. We saw Liquid unaware on Eichenwald. We now see Immortals unaware of objectives on Oasis. Questionable play so far, and now they're in desperation mode. Have to get a lot of kills to bring this back. I don't see it happening.
It's not super likely, especially now that Grim has already bit the dust. Agility is going to try and be the hero here. Dragon Blade out, looking for Mercy in the back. Finds the hang, looking for more. Dash reset, picks up 2. Suddenly, there's a chance. ID, though, tried to be the breaker of that chance. Barrage takes down 2, including Agilities, but Grim Reality should be back into this fight. So Immortals never giving up, but certainly on the losing end of this here thus far.
ID, Master of Skies, taken down, breaker of chances, ID. But it does seem like Immortals has some people left. Grim Reality trying to bring back. Nomi comes in, they are getting kills, but here comes a Resurrection to flip things back.
Team Liquid just saying, please die already, and there it is. They get off the point for a split second, and Team Liquid going to take this. But I'll note that if Immortals never lost the point to begin with, that just would have been Team Liquid taking the point. So Immortals really keeping their eyes off the ball there for a moment, and they're punished pretty severely for it.
You have to wonder if they'd just mentally given up already, down 2-0 in this, and not having the greatest of stages overall. It seems like Oasis is a map that Liquid was very comfortable on. Even when they run the combo, when they didn't run the combo, looked pretty good.
Curse you, Team Liquid. You just give me so much hope, and I've been hurt before. But they do have some hope in this, and they were able to get Oasis. Now, how much of that, though, was them just being a little bit more comfortable on Oasis and Immortals not feeling very comfortable, and how much of that was them pulling it back?
Well, I don't like going to terms comfortable all that often. I think what it comes down to here is that they were definitely better apt to run the Pharah Mercy combo, and Immortals not only were not equipped to deal with it in a straight-up mirror, they also didn't have good counters in terms of alternate compositions that could bring it back in their way. Now, that being said, as far as the topic of hope for Team Liquid goes, the 4th map in our rotation does have the option of Dorado, which Immortals pretty good on historically. Liquid definitely have some trouble there.
I'd be stunned if we don't go to Dorado, mostly because the other option being Gibraltar is a map that Liquid is very good on. So not only would you be hurting yourself, but you would be helping your opponents. And I think maybe, in retrospect, is always a lot easier, but switching from Farah from Agilities onto Genji earlier, it seemed to open up space for Grim to allow him to operate on that 76. And we talk about Grim a lot, needing space to operate. Agilities can provide that. It did look like they looked at best. I think they probably still lose Oasis anyway.
And we're gonna have to put a pin in that because we threw down the gauntlet once again, and it's been picked up.
They're going the
gonna be Gibraltar, and that was Immortals that picked that map. So
I have no valid explanation for this map pick coming out by Immortals.
yeah,
Liquid is actually good on Gibraltar. They're better on Hollywood. They're better on Hollywood than they are in Dorado. I don't know.
I mean, okay, so
know.
there is
I
a
give
little bit of an explanation now that I racked my brain for a little bit more. We did see Immortals practicing that early aggression defense on Gibraltar, so maybe that's why they figure we've done more work on this, we've scrimmed this, we're going to be in Liquid's face from the very beginning. And yeah, on the same note, they are ignoring a lot of positive history for them on Dorado, so I don't necessarily agree with it, but thinking about the fact that they did have an uptick in Gibraltar improvement, maybe that's where Immortals is coming from here.
They've looked better on Gibraltar, but it is one of Liquid's better maps, is my only question with it.
And it does seem like it has to be their planning and their changing in this meta because all of their results, are a little older. Not a ton has changed. I mean, maybe Bastion is that X factor, but no, I think it's really just the set plays that they've got coming in because they previously have really liked that openness behind a choke point, and maybe it's because they've been working with Nami and their tanks to be a little bit more free flowing, as that's been an issue in the past. That they're on it. I guess I can't wait to see what they bring.
You can also make the argument that the history in Overwatch changes so quickly that their record of maybe 10 games means almost nothing. What happened in the last 3 maps is probably more applicable than what happened in the last month, just how quickly esports in general and Overwatch in particular changes.
Very well said. But we will see how they turn out here on this map. Of course, for Team Liquid, this is still a very do-or-die situation. If they lose Gibraltar, they're out in the series. They are 0-4. So Team Liquid perhaps working under even more pressure than Immortals is here, just trying to keep hope alive that maybe they could be a playoff team here in the OCS.
Yeah, and with how this series has been going, Liquid, first of all, they have to find victory here. Then we'd be going into another map, which we can talk about it a little bit. It might not come to fruition, but we've got Hollywood on the table. I mean, what are the chances we see Hollywood or Immortals if they lose this one? Are they going straight into Kings Row?
They would have to go to Kings Row based on their history, if they respected it at all. But they have also brought us to Gibraltar instead of Dorado, so
yeah,
who
the
knows?
difference. Yeah, the only difference I can think of is that they have not picked Hollywood. They have avoided that, and I think they have played it once in recent in this series. To go back and take a look at it. But we are going into Gibraltar here for potentially the final map of the week. As Team Liquid, they don't want it to be the final map. They want to take it to the Game 5 and their shot at their first victory in the Overwatch Carbon series. Let's take a look at this beautiful Gibraltar map.
It is beautiful. It's where you go if you want to get sunburned. At least that's what I always look at when I see here. It's like, this is actually a little bit too much sun, for my liking anyways.
All right, I suppose I don't mind the sun. You got everything in moderation. Get a little bit of a light tan, but the Gibraltar sun is rather intense. Some of the voice lines on this are great because it was an Overwatch base at a point in time. I think Tracer wonders if she still left things in her locker there.
I mean, you never know. That would be a question to ask Winston because Winston is just squatting in this base. He's put up a tire. He has peanut butter in here. I mean, this used to be a government installation. I don't think they said, Winston, please live here. Winston just thought, hey, I'm just going to set up shop here. And then he gets raided by a bunch of scary guys with guns.
Well, squatters' rights are a thing. Once you're there for so long, it is yours. Hard to evict someone. And with Overwatch being a organization it's having difficulties bringing back their real estate, but regardless of our theories and our fandoms, what do you see on this Liquid defense?
Well, this Liquid defense here going to be more of the same in terms of trying to take the initiative away from Immortals, dive into them with Mezar leading the way, Shatter on the flank, and AZK being on the other flank with ID in the back being the muscle behind it all.
Well, this Liquid defense, one thing is certain. They are holding further back than nearly any team we've seen play defense on Gibraltar. They're going to give a lot of free push. The furthest one forward is AZK, and he's just going to give up the high ground, wait for them to come in. So they definitely have a strategy of reaction defense rather than aggressive defense.
Immortals right now, they're just eagerly looking for a first pickoff here. Agility's on the Roadhog here once more. Actually does bring the question, like, we didn't see Agilities really using Roadhog as much in control. Wonder how that would have worked out, but that is a question for another time. As Immortals right now being meaty onto that point and just really making Team Liquid come to them.
Happy with the slow push. A blind hook does not find the tracer he was looking for. A decent attempt, of course. Hook cooldown a little longer, now I'll have to wait before, but they look like they want to do the full rotation through glass, take away this high ground.
And for Team Liquid, this is where you need to rotate away. You don't want to fight a beefier setup like Immortals head to head. You want to flank them from multiple sides. ID, though, going to be taking a nap. Big opportunities for Immortals now to really push this in. Team Liquid has to contest the payload. It's starting to move forward, but with ID already down because of that sleep, it's going from bad to worse.
And there goes Gregor. A lot of their healing and killing potential down as the Zenyatta falls as well. 6v4. Nomi makes it a 6v3 as they are dominating this fight. Only 2 left, 1 left. This should be first point taken unless Shatter can do something I've never seen before.
And really, Ethan is somewhat of the hero there. His sleep dart hit ID's toe. ID couldn't move from the spot. He ends up dying. Sets up the 6v5 and the split spawn here. Just brutal for Team Liquid. Of course, people who die and then respawn right before the cap, doomed to another death here on Gibraltar. Just no way around it.
Should just call them Gibraltar spawns at this point. On no other map are they as prevalent or as devastating as they are in Gibraltar. And look at all the ground they've already taken. High ground taken. And that is a sleeping teammate, though. Grim Reality going to squat over Ethan to make sure he comes back up. And here comes a very angry scientist. Winston defends his house.
Winston able to follow up that sleep dart. Ethan out of the equation right now as Grim just looking for any place where he wants to fight. Most of them not including being up top, but now the fight is taking place back on payload, and AZK falls immediately to Agilities. Agilities proving to be consistent with his hooks once more. And even though Grim is under a lot of pressure, he's not falling in his built-up attack visor.
They have pushed them back far enough, though, that they can't just have the free high ground at the very least. Agilities takes down ID, though, as they're come to full force. Now Shatter got to be very careful, could not lose him in this backline as they're already down 1. There goes another in Grego. Very, very down in this fight already is Team Liquid.
Team Liquid is having trouble re-stabilizing at all here. Immortals just coming through with lightning fast speed. And here we go, Tech Visor coming out here from Grim, going for the last bit of cleanup. Already finds to hang, and Immortals just doing whatever they want right now to Team Liquid. Nothing going Team Liquid's way. And this is, to say this is a fast time would be an understatement of understatements because they have over 5 minutes left to bring this into last.
Liquid had evicted them from the high ground, though, is the issue I have with it. They got him off the shuttle, they got him off the bridge, they had pushed him back. Grim Reality was going back towards spawn to recombine with his team, and then they gave up easy kills that allowed Immortals to re-engage.
Well, the next fight here could be underway. Hyped Graviton Surge built up. And this is going to be a threat here for Team Liquid. Shatter trying to be the X Factor. Into the back line, has already taken down Grim. Sets up AZK. Catches Nomi off guard with the hook. And suddenly, Immortals needing to back out. But the downside there for Liquid is that Immortals also saves their power. They hold on to their ultimates, and they're going to be able to come back in with a highly charged up Zarya and Graviton.
Well, you did set the table for us. Both of those hugely impactful tank ultimates ready. Hyped is going to be trying to come around the corner. Has to be very careful, though, as there is a D.Va on the field, and we've seen a lot of Gravitons get eaten up by that D.Va defense matrix. They are trying to find the right angle. Earthshatter or Grab could be the first to come down. That is a forced grab, and here it goes.
Oh, the hook set up the Graviton. That was a terrible hook, and there's the Earthshatter. Massive cleanup coming in from Nomi. Knocks down all 5. Grim Reality right there as well. Oh my goodness, the hook actually made that Graviton more effective, got him behind the D.Va, and the Earthshatter looked absolutely sick. Oh my goodness, Immortals now in full position to finish this out, and Team Liquid has no one to blame but themselves.
Careful what you wish for with those hooks. Grim is up top, and he's got Tactical Visor ready, and he's gonna pop it. Shatter comes out and is the first to fall. Mez trying to do his best, brings it back, takes down Nomi, but that is the only kill so far. Gonna have to see a lot more blue in that kill feed if Team Liquid is gonna have a chance at this. So far, most of Immortals still alive. Grim uncontested, up top, peppering away at Mez. Mez will fall.
Mez will fall. Grim under no pressure here whatsoever. He is playing Duck Hunt. Everyone else is playing Overwatch. And Immortals only needs a little bit more to finish this out. Liquid doing an all right job of at least stalling, creating the possibility of bringing this back, but they are very scattered here. And again, Grim, he's just clicking on dots at this point. Nothing is on him. Does have a Genji finally come up and say hi. And hey,
got some.
Shatter's gonna do it. Shatter brings out the Dragon Blade, has 2. Will he bring it back? Looking for the miracle. Slicing, but ends up getting melted in turn. Pull gonna come out here from Agilities, and Shatter's effort just not enough. Wow, though, that team fight towards the end, that,
Special delivery. You brought hell upon yourself, sir, in the form of a graviton.
I was just saying, I'm okay with this.
This is my life now.
This is fine, and not with fire all around him like that famous image.
No, the shield all around him instead, and the cleanup there. And then once Grim gets on the high ground there, you're already in desperation mode, just trying to keep people alive. Shatter did his best to bring it back there. But even in second, they had moments where they got them off the shuttle. They had them pushed back, and then just donating lives. Shatter was probably a little too far, but it was also after ID had died early, and that gave them the impetus to push back in.
Here's the problem here, too, is that moving into the next round, Immortals completed that so quickly.
Yeah.
Almost 3 minutes left remaining. Not only is Team Liquid under the pressure that they have to finish out the map, which people don't always do on Gibraltar, but then they have to win in another round where Immortals is going to have an enormous time advantage in all likelihood. For a team that is now forced in a must-win situation, this is almost about as dire as it gets.
You are correct, sir. Defense looking like they want to run 2-2-2. Does anyone run more 2-2-2 than Immortals? I don't think so. But the tank is going to be Nomi on Winston rather than a Reinhardt, so it seems like they want to hold pretty far forward. That's what they've been running lately, and they're at least going to run further forward than Liquid, who had been playing very far back. Agility is perhaps just going to be the lone person up here looking for a hook, but no, they're set up all around there. The tank is up top, and that's Winston. We'll see what this offense wants to run.
I'd be surprised if Immortals wasn't coming in rather aggressively here. They didn't do it immediately, but now they're looking to poke out. This is what they've been practicing, and this is why perhaps it makes more sense that they've gone to Gibraltar, as we were talking about in the pregame setup.
We got a Hanzo sighting, and it's a Hanzo for more than just a Sonic Arrow. First time we've seen him all of the tournament. ID running some desperation mode. Two people go down to Agilities early, make that a third. Agilities with the 4K.
Agility's just making it look easy towards the end. Of course, the scrap gun for Roadhog, far more potent now. He's able to get away towards the very end, actually pretty close to getting picked off, but now we are seeing Immortals' true form. They are all around the opening here and really making Team Liquid pay for every little bit that they want to go out on. And by the way, ID no longer on that Hanzo.
Well, it didn't do much, so not all that surprising. Instead, they're going to run triple DPS. Shatters on that Genji. AZK will supplement as well on a Tracer. The defense has fallen back just a little bit, but not too far. Going to hold this high ground instead of the very first high ground, but both very healthy. So far, no losses for this Immortal D as they continue to hold high ground and range shots from above.
I think for Immortals, they're not under any pressure here either. They could just be a very aggressive defense, and even if they lose points, they're going to have a better time to begin with. So 2 kills even early on here, and oh no, the Hang just getting rocked from long range. Beautiful Helix rocket there from Grim Reality, and Immortals being an iron wall here, the Team Liquid, and Team Liquid needs every second they can get here, Hex. They can't afford to be held this far up.
And they slept Agilities there. He was down on the ground, but no cleanup, just woke up, felt no worse for the wear, and kept on his rampage.
Well, Nano Boost is going to be coming out here from Hang, powering things up, but Grim, Nano Boost of his own, Tac Visor out in the back line. Not having too many targets here just not ready, but does find AZK and Shatter before that Tac Visor goes away. So Immortals off of this flank from Grim, still going to be holding back Team Liquid, and this is a very late Tac Visor from ID. See if it works out, but gets 2 kills, we'll see.
He's getting some kills, getting some push on the cart, perhaps opening some momentum. That's a nice Helix rocket onto Verbo there as ID tries to put his team on the back with a 4th kill. All of this getting some free push as well, and that was what they needed. They finally broke it open at the very least. First point not quite captured yet, though.
It was risky for ID given that teammates were down all around him, but his risk very much pays off, and it's not just Tac Visor, it's a great Helix rocket towards the very end. Now Team Liquid about to get on this point, but Nomi not giving it up just yet. Does have Primal Rage, just gonna let him stall out. Agility's coming in off the flank. Misses the hook, but all the Immortals is back in here on this fight. Shatter gonna try and put an end to that. Takes down Grim. One of the big threats gone. 2 kills here from Liquid, and even though Agilities gets the hook, the sound barrier and sleep going to ruin his day. Team Liquid should be able to get this point now.
Be absolutely stunned if they were unable to. There's some great play from Hang coming out, hitting some nades on primary targets that needed to be focused down, and the split spawns of Gibraltar work both ways.
Shatter just feasting on players who want nothing to do with him there. 3.5 minutes left here for Team Liquid. Still a long, long way to go to even up things time-wise, but they're keeping the hope alive, Hex.
Well, this is a great position. This is the position Immortals was in, actually, before they were evicted off the top of the shuttle. Some nice free push going down. Hype got to be very careful not to give up his life for free there. ID getting punished, but Agilities eats a pulse bomb in return.
It's back and forth, but Immortals now coming back in style, but AZK finds Grim. Ethan on a violence, and it's all taking place on the shuttle. Red and blue all over as both teams trade out, but Team Liquid comes ahead on those trades. Mezar, one of the last people standing, Hyped. Pulse bomb sticks, takes down Mezar and Hyped. Now buying a bit of time here for Immortals, and what was a very close fight between both teams.
It may be enough for Immortals to stabilize here as Hype's still alive, going to be annoying in the backline, and it does appear so. They've gotten a lot of damage. That is a beautiful cleanup onto Hanged. Hype has come alive on his Tracer.
Hyped, finding some moments here, suddenly arriving in on Gibraltar. 2 minutes left here for Team Liquid, and even though it's plenty of time to get into the last part here on Gibraltar, still dealing with a very big time that they need to make somewhat competitive, so pressure really mounting, and if this next push doesn't go well for Team Liquid, gonna be hard to see how they find a way back in this.
Very likely could be the tale of two tactical visors as both Soldier 76s are prepared to get them in their sights. Still holding far forward, Agility's going to be a problem and a constant threat with his hooks. No one's gonna come through there. The attack visor popped onto Grim Reality up top. He's gonna be able to deal with the Winston. No, Primal Rage comes out. He knocks him into the team though.
I'm not sure that's where you want to throw a Ultic Soldier 76, but he does get him into the corner finally. If anyone's played a fighting game, that is not where you want to be. So Mezar does get his prey in the end, and Liquid actually pushing this more in their favor. Agilities was looking for a crazy flank, doesn't get it, falls, and now a renewed Team Liquid squad moving back in here. Nobody has an Earthshatter to try and stop this, but they're so poked down. Shatter, Dragon Blade for a finisher, takes down 2, looking for more. Ethan, nothing he can do. Immediately dispatched. Shatter coming alive, and now Team Liquid should be able to get the second. And we'll see if they can keep their Gibraltar hopes alive.
Well, that is a Genji taking a dive off the edge for Agilities. 2 minutes and 30 seconds remain for Liquid on this offensive push to stay alive in this series. ID thinking better of maybe going too far forward. This is a fine perch, he decides, as they're getting all the free push that they want up through here. Shatter's gonna switch onto a Diva of all things off of the Genji. What do you think of that, ZP?
I think they just want more space control, but hold that thought, ID. Attack visor in over the top, but it's very early before the engage. Still finds Verbo. So 65 opportunity here for Team Liquid as AZK's in the back. If they're looking at ID, they're not looking at AZK. But there's the Earthshatter coming from Nomi. Only knocks down 1, and the Sound Bearer stops it from doing anything. So that Earthshatter effectively wasted. Now Nomi surrounded on all sides, going to fall as AZK. The Pulse Bomb takes down 2. Liquid not out of this here just yet. They are fighting for their lives, and they finish out with a time that's only 1 minute slower, Hex. Immortals falling apart towards last.
And as many questions as we had surrounding ID coming into this match, it was very likely his tactical visor against all odds that brought the momentum back for Liquid under the car wash.
Well, they had a very potent 1-2 punch there where ID was coming in from the front, and even though the attack visor got 1, while they're looking at ID, AZK just scoots in from the back and not only gets 1 kill, but then gets a pulse bomb in that takes down 2 and ruins the chances for Immortals to find a way of withstanding there. Now, going into this next round, we're going to be seeing Liquid on the offense again and the Immortal defense, and I am curious to see, given that the Immortals have to defend for 1:45, if they go super aggro here or they go a little bit more traditional, to just make sure that the payload stops before first.
Maybe a mix of both. Maybe hold the high ground a little bit, but be prepared to back out. I don't know if you'll see the Winston on the other side where he was posted up before, although seeing some of these silhouettes, I do think Hyped is over on the bottom left in pack room from our vision right now. Hard to tell. They are posted up pretty far forward. Generally, people would be holding back onto first high ground. ID is going to spot this right away with a Sonic Arrow.
And that is why you use a Sonic Arrow early on, to just know what you're going to be dealing with. But Immortals certainly not going to be changing their strategy much. They're going to be making Liquid pay for every bit of momentum they get here. And early kills coming out from Immortals. both a hook and an early tracer aggression by Hype. So Liquid already going to be losing some valuable time early on.
Valuable time and valuable players, as they have to wait for the reset. ID was toying with the idea of Hanzo, will come back into 76 instead. Still not a cracked defense for Liquid as they attempt to push forward. This Bastion on the field trying to make some space. It's not just because of the Bastion. This is something you see even pre-patch just to try to bust a strong defense like this.
Well, it can do some work in taking down shields from long range, but they're even piling in, able to take down IDs. So the offensive Immortals, or the defensive Immortals, I should say, holding Liquid back and making Liquid try multiple things. But the important thing here is that the payload isn't moving much.
40 seconds remain for Team Liquid to push as much progress as possible. That is a huge hook. How does Grim get away? I don't know what just happened there. I have no idea what just happened. Anyway, Mez and ID are trying to push this out. They get a couple kills. ID goes down here. It is back and forth. Grim finally falls to AZK.
And now Liquid is going to get this moving. The downside of holding this far forward for Immortals is that they do give up a lot of space, and they have to be careful coming back out. If you're Liquid here, you really want to be getting into those doors right now. You don't want to let Immortals come back out for free, but they're staying on the payload, so Immortals very well might come out for free.
They're going to be able to get out here and contest, and the plus side for Immortals is this is further forward, or not even as far as Liquid has held defensively. A couple of ults come online. We are firmly in overtime now. Cannot get off the card.
Incredibly pivotal fight here as both teams going in. Shatter, whole hog early on here with the Sound Bear, trying to keep Immortals back. AZK finds a pulse bomb. Liquid, 2 kills to 1. The tac visor from ID, though, taken down by Grim's tac visor because he had the nano boost in over the top. Immortals trying to stop Liquid right now. Earthshatter comes in, laying the fight for Mez. Doesn't quite do as much as you might think as Grim right now. One of the last people alive for the side of Immortals, holding in over the top, but respawns are coming in soon, Hex.
They are coming in soon. Grim able to take down to Hang. This fight is not over. Grego, if he falls, will be the last remaining healing available. Grim Reality up top is just still going to town on the players below. ID brings it back for Nomi. Very back and forth. Scrappy, as you would call it. It does seem like Immortals is bringing it back as no one is able to touch ID up top. Or Grim up top, my bad.
Grim was invisible to Team Liquid there, where they just thought that we'll kill everyone on the ground and push the payload forward. Well, enough members of Immortals came out to stall the payload that Grim was able to feast. He just sat up there, plenty of damage coming in from the above. You can't give a soldier of Grim's quality that much time to ruin your life.
I feel like at some point we need a banner, a voice line, a tattoo that says, "You can't leave Grim Reality on the high ground." I feel I've said it for months and months at a time. Easier said than done to dislodge him, but more often than not, when Immortals wins games, it's because people don't challenge Grim holding the high ground.
That was a bit brutal. I mean, I understand what Team Liquid was going for there in thinking if we kill everyone on the ground, he's going to have to jump over to stall at the payload, which he almost did at one point, but the problem is you're on a time limit there to kill everyone else that's trying to stall you out, and Team Liquid was not able to beat that. So now, that is the yellow box victory for Immortals. They're going to have almost 3 minutes to bring it there, only slightly less than the time you have the cap first anyways on Gibraltar. So for Team Liquid, this is going to have to be a very gutsy and nearly flawless defense if they don't want to go down 0-4 in the OCS.
Well, this is where Liquid held last time. Up on glass, up on ledge, all the way over the second point. They're going to give up a ton of free push, but that's their strategy. We'll see if it works out for them. 2.5 minutes to beat the Liquid push and make Immortals win the series and set their overall OCS score at 2-2.
Well, the thing for Liquid here is that they're giving up a lot of room to Immortals. They're not going for the early defensive hold. So that means their margin for error here really is just 1. If they lose a team fight period, that's it. 2 minutes left here for Immortals. The payload almost at final destination. Team Liquid now going to dash in, but they can't challenge the server room. Immortals is far too entrenched in there. they have to find a better way of getting in on Immortals.
They really wanted that dive. Everyone rolled down. Now they're going to take high ground. They rotate up through glass. Shatter's got to be careful. He gets in there. 2 down immediately.
Oh, make it 3. Everything going flawlessly. Ethan and Agility's coming in big. Shatter not able to get too much done in the back line there, but even if he did, his team just melted on the bottom. And Team Liquid going down in flames here in the OCS. Immortals going to take Gibraltar in a dominating fashion. And for that, Team Liquid now 0-4 in the OCS.
Holding so far back that if they lost a single fight in 2.5 minutes, they were going to lose the map. They lost that fight. They lost it 6-0 on the other side. Grim Reality, no surprise, play of the game. Play of the match instead.
Team Grim coming in here. No tact visor even required. Actually, a little bit of a strange play of the game. You might play the game sense. I'm not actually sure what's going on here.
Listen, he was helping, okay?
I'm helping.
Did he lay down his healing? Maybe
did.
that was where we got the... I don't know. Who knows?
Why not? I'm for it.
MVP healing station. Why not?
Well, at the end of watching this, because there's a lot of little strategic things, there's one hotly contested, and no one's really, I think, come to the bottom of this one strategically, but I have a question for you, Hex, is can you leave Grim on the high ground? I'm just not sure.
No, you can't.
cannot.
To elaborate on that, it does seem like teams have a strategy on how to deal with Grim, and he's either priority 1 or priority 6. Like, either we're going to send everything we have at him, or we're going to hope that we kill everyone else, and maybe Grim has to run away in sheer terror. Neither really work out all that well. I'd say if I was running a team, I'd say he's priority 1. He's got to be stopped first, but of course it's easier said than done because then Agilities is there, and you've got all these other pieces of Immortals, as we've mentioned, a very fit roster top to bottom.
Well, I think the bigger issue that you're dealing with there in this instance is that it's Watchpoint Gibraltar, which has a very rich history of Soldier 76 just dominating people from the high ground. So of all the maps where you can ignore Grim and hope that everything's going to turn out okay, Gibraltar is probably one of the least maps you would want to try that on.
Well, and you could see that they were prioritizing that high ground every single time, whether it be on second, definitely on first. Both of their pushes, they rotated right towards glass. The first time, they literally just pushed up there to give Grim Reality that shot, and then the rest of them just rotated back around and to have the multiple threats, and they just weren't getting, Liquid wasn't dealing with it properly. Looking at their first push there from Immortals and the defense from Liquid, it just seems like they were playing a very reactive D. They weren't, I mean, we even saw a couple times where the Blade was available, for Genji to go in there on Shatter, and he just opted not to use it, and then they lose a few members, and then, well, now what am I supposed to do? Use it now, and then they lose payload. Do you think that they needed to be a little bit more proactive on D?
I mean, maybe they need to do something differently than what they were doing. I think, again, for Team Liquid, I'm not going to be too harsh here, that you are dealing with 2 factors going in. Is that one is that you are new to playing with Shatter, as good as he may be, and you're not playing with Rafa, who was your new shot caller, who you were adapting to his new calling system and everything else. So I'm willing to give Team Liquid a little bit of a pass in terms of the idea that their initiation wasn't where it needed to be. Unfortunately, it's still not great when circumstances are where you're actually letting your main shot caller go away for whatever event it may be that Rafa's on. Now you're 0-4 in a tournament that you really wanted to make a statement in.
One of the issues that Team Liquid has had in the past and in their entire history is being a little too passive. And that is as far back on Gibraltar that a team can actually hold. You can hold front, which we've seen being very aggressive. You can hold first high ground and try to get picks and then rotate around through car wash. You can hold server room. Those are your 3 options up front. The 4th one is all the way back on top. That's where they chose to hold. Obviously, it didn't work, so it's easy to say I don't like it, but I don't like it.
Yeah, and part of me wants to say, like, why aren't you going up? You know, you don't have very much room to work with. Part of me also wants to say, okay, well, it looks like apparently this was the plan you had coming in. Maybe you just stick with your gun, stick with your plan, but the results are hard to argue with there. Looking at Liquid from a high level, there is a little bit of hope because on Oasis, they played very strong, and this is a map that shot calling and that macro level play is not nearly as prevalent. It is a lot more skirmishy, on the ground fighting, a lot of individual 1v1s. And so they actually played very well in that regard. So maybe if they get Rafa back and they shore up that shot calling because it does seem like Shatter is integrating very well. Maybe they can do more, but they are up against a wall now at 0-4. Let's take a look at the standings coming out of week 2 because we are seeing the pack emerge a little bit there. So we've got Hammers clearly on top there at 4-0. They have been a force to be reckoned with. Renegades at 3-1, definitely an accurate portrayal of how they've been playing. They've got a very potent 3 attack DPS combo. Juvenile also a very aggressive player, so that maybe is why they have that one loss, is they were playing a little overly aggressive. And then of course you've got Complexity Immortals now in the middle of the pack at 2-2, Luminosity at 1-3, and Team Liquid at 0-4. Is this where we thought we would be at the end of week 2?
No, I don't think so. I mean, going into it, I think that we thought Complexity would have a rougher time actually rebounding A, and we thought that Immortals would be higher than they are B. Not that Immortals is, I think, in any real threat of not making the playoffs, but again, you think back to early expectations for the series, the loss to LG was definitely probably the one X factor there. If their only loss was to Hammers, I think it'd be different, but things are a little bit different than what we expected from the onset.
They're not playing as dominantly as I think we expected them to play, and the teams that are at the top, the Renegades and the Hammers, are playing dominant when they do show up. I think it was a big night for Renegades to not slip back to the middle of the pack to keep their lead as front runners. Again, very tough for Liquid. And I mentioned it last night. One of the big shakeups here is we expected Complexity to be at the bottom with Liquid, given everything that they went through roster-wise, and I do think that they are a team that could upset someone and steal a playoff spot that a team may think that they deserve instead.
No, I'm very excited to see them moving forward because 0-2 at the beginning, and now they have been on a tear, as much as you can be on a tear in 2 games, but 2 good victories and definitely looking much different than they were week 1. Let's take actually a look at week 3. We're done with 2 weeks now. We're going to be going into week 3, and there are some exciting matchups. Luminosity versus Team Liquid and Hammers versus Immortals will kick the week off, and that's going to be the bottom of the pack, and then Hammers at the very top facing off against Immortals, who's trying to gain traction. Then on Tuesday, we've got Complexity. They're going to be facing off against Hammers, and this is another one. This is another 2-2 team trying to get into that top of the pack, facing off against a difficult Hammers team to play. And then Team Liquid will be facing off against Renegades, where they're going to continue to try to pull it back. We're going to see if having Rafa back does help them out to close out the week next week. Luminosity is going to be facing Complexity, and Immortals will be facing off against Renegades. But other than that, I mean, any final thoughts going into next week?
The one thing I will say is that I think LG versus Team Liquid is a trap game for LG. LG needs every win they can get if they want to get in the playoffs with Complexity hot on their heels. If Team Liquid is able to take down LG, which, who knows, it is a possibility from what we've seen from both teams, that would be a disaster, LG. And you got to think that anyone who's a fan of Complexity is going to be rooting very hard for Team Liquid going to that first game.
Liquid had its moments tonight, so I agree with you that they could surprise some teams. They are 0-4, but they could end up 6-4. Stranger things have happened. The game I'm really looking forward to next week falls right in the middle. Complexity versus Hammers. I want to see them tested against the best team, and if they're able to even hang with Hammers, I think a lot of people should remain to be afraid of Complexity, but I want to gauge Complexity's true power levels.
Yeah, that is going to be a good litmus test as far as hanging with the top dogs, because you know, Hammers, they have been nigh unstoppable in the OCS, and they were the only team that really gave up a good fight against Rogue in recent history at the OMM. Well, I mean, we're here at the Carbon Studio at the end of week 2. It's been a long 2 weeks. We've made it. We've acclimated to the Denver air for the most part. We've got a nice weekend to rest up, get ready for week number 3, and we're going to be very excited to be bringing you that. Another plug for our social media, definitely be following us on Twitter at Game Carbon. We're going to have a lot of highlights throughout the matches. We're also going to be posting highlight videos after the fact and other content for you to consume. Check out our website, of course, where the schedule, standings, all the information you need for the event is contained. And of course, see you next week on Twitch and YouTube at 5 p.m. PST for another week of the Overwatch Carbon series. Have a good night.
Now being being sneaky, creeping from the back. Grim back to fight. Tack visor up. Immediate
Grab could be the first come down. That is a forced grab, and here it goes.
Oh, the hook set up the graviton. That was a terrible hook, and there's the Earth Shatter. Back in here. Nobody has Earth Shatter to try and stop this, but they're so pumped down. Shatter. Dragon Blade for a finisher. Takes down 2. Looking for more. Ethan. So Metro both down immediately. Oh no, it got behind him.
The high ground is Liquid. Hype's got people in his sights with his pulse bomb.
The pulse bomb though.
There, Graham is going to be focused on just that Pharah.